Topical and atypical. Unfiltered and independent. 100% authentic and intelligent.
So it's going to be like that today. Okay. Gonna be like that. Let me go out and come back because they want to act up. So let me go out and come back. I'll be right back. Story time. A lot of people don't know that I don't do stand-up comedy anymore. I don't do stand-up comedy anymore, not only because it just wasn't even feeling right at a certain point, but also because I was pushed out of stand-up by Zios. So in 2024, I was on tour doing the Unlikable Tour, which, by the way, was aptly named after there was an online smear campaign that was pushed by Black media that I believe was underscored by the Zios and possibly the Democrats, but who knows? Nonetheless, they had pushed this whole rhetoric that Amanda Seales is unlikable and basically just tried to discredit my voice. While I was on tour, Zionists really went to great lengths to cancel my shows. And they successfully canceled my show at the Kimmel Center in Philadelphia, which then led to the cancellation of my radio show. We up. By Radio One, a Black-owned company. Then they impeded my ticket buying site. So it was literally I just couldn't do a tour because I couldn't sell tickets, and they had made it where certain venues were we don't even want to work with you because they're on us. And so I decided that I was going to simply just cash out. And I say cash out, meaning I had to literally pay the folks that had already been working on the tour, even though I wasn't going to make anything on the tour. So cash out meant I was out of cash. And I decided it was time to do what would the ancestors say.
This is your ancestor, Harriet Tubman,
which is a one-woman show that uses history and comedy and commentary to ask us what would our ancestors say about where we are and what kind of ancestors are we for the future. Then I decided to turn it into a book. I'll do a whole other story time about what pushed me to do it in book form. You can support the book release on November 8th, as well as a live stream performance of the One Woman Show, What Would the Ancestors Say, by going to amandaseales.com and getting your tickets. You're supporting someone who is constantly in defiance, who has dedicated herself to living in the legacy of the Black arts movement, which is one of edutainment, and using art to edutain, to empower, and to encourage not just Black people, but all of us to rise and to remember the resistance and resilience within us, because we are not a culmination. We are a continuance. And it is in that spirit that I continue to fight through my work. Good morning. Welcome to Views from Amandaland, your news and truths by any joke necessary. Thank you for waking up on the right side of history. If you're joining us on Instagram, please come on over to YouTube, Amanda Seals TV. Very nice to see all of you. I'm tired. I am tired. I'm tired. I gotta be honest with y'all. I really can't. I don't feel like I feel like for the last month, because I've been so wrapped up in trying to get what would the ancestors say together, like I just feel like I'm chasing my tail when it comes to like keeping up with what's going on in the world. No, what's going on is coming. It's in our faces, but knowing the intricacies of it in order to be able to report it to you all. You know what I mean? So like, let's look at this. Let's look at this cat. So this is Lumumba. And you can hear the purrs. But Lumumba has asthma. So he wheezes a little bit when he purrs. But I feel like it's sounding a little better since we got him on some treatment. So this is the show. This is going to be the show today. Y'all just watching me cuddle with my cat. Good morning, Sugar Plums. How are you? So the book will not be available on its own until November 8th, aside from the people who are going to be joining us on the book tour in San Diego on November 6th. Okay? So that is when the book will be available. I had accidentally, the book was not on sale, and people were able to like somehow get to it in my store. And someone said Weezy F baby about, and people had ordered the book, and I had to cancel all those orders yesterday. It was like 13, 14, 15 orders. I had to cancel all them orders yesterday because they were about to get the version of the book that was not even the final version. And I was like, no, y'all ain't getting that. So somebody though, one person did get an unedited version of the book. So that's like getting one of them Beanie Babies when the tag has an error and you can sell it for apparently thousands of dollars. But otherwise, I am going to, I spent the last 2 days, I spent the last 3 days editing, getting it together, writing a new description for the back of the book. Okay, designing a different back of the book. What else did I do? I adjusted the layout. I did a lot of that. So no, Kesha, it doesn't affect this. These were the people that had bought the book on the sneak tip that somehow have found a way to buy the book by itself, even though I hadn't listed it. They had like found a way, or that my site just kind of led them to the promised land, and that was not the way it was supposed to be. So when I tell you I was editing like a mole, Lester, so basically, let me just tell y'all, last night, your girl, I get done, I edit the whole book, and then I realized I had edited, I just told you, Kimberly, it's going to be available on the 8th. That's how you can buy a bunch. On the 8th, it'll go on sale. So, yeah. I edited the whole file and it was the wrong file. It was the wrong file. Do you understand? Do you understand? I don't think you do. It was like 10, no, it was like 9:58. And I realized this. And my soul broke. And I had to get up and get some cheese. And then I had to figure out an entire new skill. The book tour and tickets been live, Centel. I just put a whole video about it. The book tour and tickets, the book tour. Oh, when do book tour tickets dates? Okay, got my fault. Book tour tickets will go live. So the dates are up on amandaseals.com. The tickets, each different place has a different method of how they want to do signups, et cetera, et cetera. So we're in that phase right now, but everything should be together, hopefully by end of day on Friday. But San Diego is the 6th, LA is the 8th, Seattle is the 9th and 10th, Detroit is the 11th, Chicago, is the 11th, Chicago is the 12th, and Memphis is the 13th. So those are your dates for now. We do have more dates coming, so don't fret. We do have more dates coming and more cities. So the cities that you see there, we will have the dates for coming soon. But just to keep it a buck, like I have to be able to hold on to my book sales. And when you do the book signings at bookstores, it is traditional to split with the bookstores. However, because I am providing my books, and also because I'm not like an unknown author, I'm coming into these spaces in a different way, and so I feel like I got to do it different. No, Tanya Pierre. At present, I am not coming to the Bay. I'll make my way to the Bay eventually, but it didn't. It didn't feel prudent. So basically, when there's like a straight path, that's the one I'm gonna take. You feel me? That's what I'm gonna take. So, do you see my posture? Look at how tired I am. Have y'all ever seen me like this? So if you haven't gotten your tickets for my show yet, I'm really wondering what you're waiting for. And then when I wonder that, I'd be like, Amanda, people don't have money. So like, what do you mean that's what you're wondering? People don't have money. And that is the real reality of where we are. And I understand that and I respect it. So, for those of y'all who did have something to spare, I appreciate you. And thank you for giving your little bit that you have to spare to little old me. You feel me? To little old me. But I am excited about the show, and I am excited about the fact that we're doing it differently this time, that we are bringing you all something different because, people feel like, oh, well, I've already seen the show before. And something I will say to you all is that I never perform the same thing twice. Like, that's just not even like how I roll. So even if you are like, oh, I saw the show before, like, you ain't seen the show before. because I always perform differently. And even in this case, I will be doing the show differently by nature of the fact that this is the show after I have written it. And I have to make it clear to y'all that the writing of the work down onto the page took it to a whole other level. It just did. Like, it took it to a whole other level, and it really made it to where I realized that there were parts of the show that just didn't speak the way I wanted them to. And so it was like, oh, like, you have to rewrite this whole thing. So many of you all have never actually seen this version of the show. And that's just what it is. Okay. Someone said a good theater kid remixes every performance. I mean, you kind of have to, just to keep your sanity, right? Like, literally, just to keep your sanity, you have to remix every performance. So I'm excited about you guys getting to see the show, and go to amandaseals.com and get your tickets. And what else do I want to tell y'all? So we are going to have an Africa tap in today. Now, I will say, 1 second. I'm very happy to see how much I'm seeing about Sudan. I feel like there was some type of conversation that was had about, like, there needing to be more coverage about Sudan, but like in a very coordinated fashion. And it's from primarily I'm seeing it a lot from a lot of very commonly pro-Palestinian pages. And I'm very happy to see that. And also seeing people be able to better explain what's going on in Sudan, because I feel like that was confusing for a lot of people, because, like, there's no knowledge in mainstream media. They're not really talking about it. And then there really just wasn't a lot of information in general. So you're trying to, like, piece it together. We did a piece on Sudan a few weeks ago where I was explaining to you all how it's being used for a proxy war, etc. But on a basic level, it's a typical scenario where you have one place that is extrapolating the resources from another place while completely attempting to destroy its people in order to do so in a real way, in an easy way, per se. And that right there is just kind of become like the American way. So before we get into the rest of the show, let's find out where everybody is. How about that? All right. Let me get some energy up in here. Amandalanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. Chattanooga, Patterson, New Jersey, Columbus, Ohio, NYC. Amandalanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. Stockholm, Sweden, Brooklyn, New York, Milwaukee, Vancouver, Washington, Bloomfield, New Jersey, Newark, Edmonton, Canada, Detroit, and España, Duval, Chicago, Tequanapan, Mexico, San Jose, California, Charlotte, North Carolina, Virginia, Manchester, England, Los Angeles, Elmhurst, New York, Dover, Delaware, Fresno, Jamaica, New York, Francais, London, UK, Northern Kentucky, Baltimore, Maryland, San Antonio, Texas, Nice, France. That's a new location in France for us. Lexington, Kentucky, Ninth Ward, Houston, Third Ward, Houston, Salt Lake City, Utah, Lakeland, Florida, Boricua and Miami, worried about our Jamaican citizens, and we will be talking about what's going on in Jamaica a little bit later in the show. Philly, QU and watching from. It was short today. All right, let's get our word of the day going. Okay, let's see what our word of the day is. What is that? Oh, that's for my show. The word of the day is annotation. 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 We know that it is a noun because it ends in a TION. An annotation is a critical note or comment. A critical note or comment. These internets be giving me unsolicited annotations that oftentimes aren't even rooted in facts. How about that? All right, y'all, let's hear it in a sentence. Annotation, ANNOTATION. Shout out to all of our folks listening on the podcast. Shout out to all of our listeners of Small Doses Podcast. The last episode of Small Doses Podcast is airing right now. Also, shout out to all of our replay crew. Woo! Lester says it's quite helpful and informative to read annotations of the Supreme Court decisions. You are correct. Jeremiah says, I remember when YouTube used to have annotations, right? Jess Ramsey says, I can't read a good book without filling it up with annotations. Same. Kimberly says, even though my mom passed, I still hear her judgmental annotations in my head. Lord. Meredith Mejia says every New York Times article about Gaza needs major annotations. Facts. Brandon McGrath says it's early voting in Texas, and I wish these propositions came with clear annotations to better inform people what they're voting on. Well, you know that's by design. Hey, Mamele, out in South Africa. Thanks for the link, Rolando, but it's taking me to Apple Podcasts, and I'm an Android user. Oh, well, you can hear it on Spotify for now. Carmen says, I have trouble writing annotations in my books. Interesting, because you feel like you're ruining the book. I get that. That's so, Jalen, I would like to provide an annotation of today's events in Seal Squad fashion. Oh my gosh, what are today's events? What's happening today? Because, honey, every day feels like just major annotated right? Jalen is also fine. So shout out to Jalen. And Tiktuki, you are right, Tiki Tuki. I know what the ancestors say has a couple of annotations. You ain't never lie. All right. Okay. Now, if you are somebody who watches the show on a regular basis and you want to make your own annotations, make sure you go to amandalandexports.com. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Lumumba. Go to amandalandexports.com and go and get your Views from Amandaland notebooks that has your sticker packs with your notebook tabs so that you can keep your annotations organized. Because if you're like me, you like to keep them organized. And while we're at it, want to remind you all that the Brother Malcolm drop is available in the Amandaland Exports store right now. And you can get your Brother Malcolm pin. You can get the Brother Malcolm print, but you can also get the bonus bundle. The Brother Malcolm bonus bundle comes with the sticker sheet. Ooh. It comes with the big ass sticker. Ooh. It comes with the magnet. Ooh. And it comes with the pin and bookmark. All right. So there's that. Now, someone said, are we canceling the holidays this year? Even if we do, I'm going to still have stuff for you to buy if you want it. Just so you know. Okay. I don't know what to tell you other than if you're not going to cancel it, at least buy from folks who are, you know, small businesses that are a part of your community. Okay. So there's that. And then the last thing before we bring up our guest is our question of the week, our bonus question. Bonus question. Bonus question. Bonus question. Bonus question. Bonus question. All right. Bonus question. Who are you putting on your ofrenda? So you all know what an ofrenda is. You all have seen Coco. Remember me. Abuela, he remembers you. He remembers you. I watch Coco casually. Like, I love Coco. Your ofrenda, okay, is a traditional altar built for Dia de los Muertos to honor and welcome the spirits of deceased loved ones. And if you listened and joined us last night for What Would Your Ancestors Say, which I've been doing at 8 p.m. Eastern on my Instagram, we had astrologist Laura Chung. You've seen her on the show many times. And she was just talking about how she's always been like a witchy person, even as a young person. And she would just hang out in cemeteries, and she has medium capabilities in terms of interacting with the energies of the deceased. And I just feel like these people that are running the show here, we got to have some supernatural, we're going to need to like embody a supernatural capability to try to defeat them. So we're going to need to bring back the people of the dead. If you are a Lord of the Rings fan, then you remember when they was like, we not going to be able to do it. And Aragorn was like, what about the dead kings, though? What about the dead kings, though? And they were like, you'll never get the dead kings to come and fight. And he was like, hold my armor. Hold my sword. And then he went and got the dead kings to fight. We got to go and get the dead folks. We have to get in touch with the energy and essence of all that has existed. And I know I'm saying it like, ha, 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 but I really mean that. So who are you putting on your ofrenda? Who are you connecting with? Who are you wanting to speak to spiritually, existentially, etc., to empower you? What ancestors are you calling on this Dia de los Muertos? Okay? Drop that in the comments after the show. Who are you putting on your ofrenda? You know I just want to say ofrenda, right? Okay. We are about to get into the Africa Tap-In. Yeah. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. You know I'm slow today. I don't got... Where... Damn, did I not make an Africa Tap-In one yet? I thought I did. Y'all, I did make an Africa Tap-In graphic. Where's my Africa Tap-In graphic? I am so sorry in a message. Okay, well, y'all gonna get an impromptu Africa Tap-In asset. Africa Tap-In. Africa, what's happening in the motherland. Motherland, in the motherland, we're Africans. Welcome in MSA. Richardson.
Greetings. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super happy to talk to all of y'all. I'm calling in from Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso, the heart of Africa's liberated zone. So I'm really happy to be here and to give you the updates of what's happening on the ground in this revolutionary country.
Please let us know. Put us on, because I keep seeing all this fake news that comes out in the US about Burkina Faso. Like, they'll just like people will just make a graphic and then start sharing it. And folks are like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, nah, I don't think that's legit. So we have the plug, y'all. Okay. Somebody on the ground who is giving us the actual realities. So we are so happy to have you back. So put us on, get us in gear.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely fake news. I've seen all sorts of videos of President Ibrahim Traore speaking English. Just FYI, he does not speak English. I get the question all the time. So it's either a dub or it's just completely made up. But there is a lot that's happening that's real and that's legit and that's very, very important. And it's not just Burkina Faso, it's this entire bloc that we call the Alliance of Sahel States. These are three countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, that are trying to unify. Like, if you think back to that Kwame Nkrumah vision, that Marcus Garvey vision, like they're trying to tear down those colonial borders that the French put up between them. And so everything they do it together. So since we last spoke, there's been all sorts of incredible updates. For one, the three countries have left the International Criminal Court. They've said, nah, like we're closing that door. We don't believe in it because it's neo-colonial. That's their word. And they said they're making their own court for international justice that they're going to call the Sahel Court. So this is like part of this step, everything they do as a unit, moving together. One of the things that they said was, or that they noted was that if you look at the first 10 cases that the International Criminal Court took up, 9 out of 10 of the cases were, focused on Africa. So it's supposed to be national, but it's just, they just target one continent. And I'm not saying that there's no bad leaders in Africa. I'm looking around. If you're looking at what's happening in Cameroon or Ivory Coast right now, it's actually pretty unfortunate. We have some old heads in their 80s and 90s who have won, quote unquote, the 4th or 8th election, but it's not legit. So there's some bad stuff happening. But at the same time, the International Criminal Court to focus on Africa, when we have, all these crimes committed by France, the US, the UK, and it's just normalized. Israel, of course, it's just considered normalized. It's so they've
Wasn't
left.
there someone, I can't remember who it was, that had said straight up, and I think it was Macron who was like, the International Criminal Court is for Africa. Like, that's not for us.
Oh yeah, for real. Like that was a statement made. Even when there was the ICJ ruling around Israel, there was also comments that's like, wait, this is supposed to be for Africa. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I think I saw it in the BBC, but I don't want to, mix up my facts. So don't quote me on that. But that was definitely a statement that I read in that context. So you see who's being targeted, and our leaders out here, they're on game. They're taking it very seriously. And they're fighting to control their territories, but they're also getting, some serious, repercussions by the West. I'll give you another example. So Niger, which has some of the biggest uranium deposits on Earth, which I talked about this a little bit last time, if you remember, it was like a month ago, but their uranium is used and has been used historically to give the European Union electricity. But the vast majority of people who live there do not have access to electricity at all. It's 80-90% of the country has zero access to electricity, and the uranium has been used to literally light up the Eiffel Tower. Like, the actual symbol of France has relied on Niger's uranium for a source of energy and power. So, last year, France began to take the steps to take control over its uranium mines and saying, we're taking it back. And then this year, the government was like, we're nationalizing, this major mine that France has controlled for so long. Like, France, get out of here, we're taking it over. But France went over to the World Bank and complained and said, oh no, this is so wrong. We're being, we're pressed here. They can't do this. And so the World Bank currently is blocking Niger from exporting and selling the uranium that it took over from France. So this is a standoff that's happening. The World Bank basically has declared it, illegal for Niger right now to sell uranium internationally, saying that the World Bank is intervening and saying no, it's for France. So there's this right. So you just see all these forces that are teaming up against these African countries that they've been exploited for years and years and years. And finally we have these good leaders who are no, absolutely not. Everything is for the people, by the people, why even sell resources if at the end of the day, the people here can't even use them? It's we see this in Africa all the time. I don't know if people are aware, Ghana, Ivory Coast, they export, cacao, which is used for chocolate, but so many people in the plantations there have never tasted chocolate. It's that kind of thing. It's the same dynamic. But these leaders who are trying to change it up, we're seeing what's happening in terms of these major international institutions coming to block them. So it's this constant battle. But there's also some success happening. I'll give you another example, another story that was major in the last few weeks. And this one has a happy end. ending, thank God. But there was this was, and I think it's almost kind of funny because you can see it's like a David and Goliath situation. So obviously we're seeing some of what's happening in the U.S. with some of Trump's like foreign policy decisions, his bans on certain countries coming to the U.S. Well, at the beginning of the month of October, he released a list. There was maybe like 6 or 7 countries, most of them in Africa. And he said that these African countries, in order for citizens to enter into the United States and to receive a visa, they need to put up a bond. And, it's somewhere between $5,000 to $15,000.
Right. I did see this.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
So Mali's was required to basically Malian citizens, if they want to come to the U.S., they have to they were to have to give a bond or like pay up a bond of up to $10,000 to secure that visa. So Mali's government, which is led by President Assimi Goïta, major ally of Ibrahim Traoré, just so you know, if you know the name Ibrahim Traoré, you've got to know the other 2 names. You've got
to.
Well,
like, we got him right here. So
there you go. So Assimi Goïta, president of Mali, close friend of Ibrahim Traoré and Nigerian
Mali is on the far right, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the one with the green, yellow, red.
Okay.
So that's Mali. He basically retaliated and he said, you know what? So if a U.S. citizen wants a visa to come to Mali, then they're going to pay $10,000 in bond. Like, you hit us with that, we're hitting you right back. And so the U.S., which was supposed to enact that law for the Malian citizens on October 23rd, when October 23rd rolled around, the U.S. State Department listed the countries that had to pay the bond, and they just quietly took Mali off the list. And they're like, we're just gonna drop that, like we don't need to include them anymore. So you can see, when these African countries stand up for themselves, and especially like the fact that they have this power of 3, like they're this unit. It's like I really think it's like a David and Goliath type situation here, where it's like, okay, the U.S., at least in this case, this time around, was like, oh well, let us just quietly back away.
It's so important to see in real time, right? Because I do believe that we are in like this very weird cycle. Like we're in like a deja vu. Like we're all experiencing like a 1960s deja vu. And like we saw in the 60s when Ghana and when the Congo and other nations in Africa really tried to do exactly what's happening right now, they were immediately squashed by the CIA, right? You saw Nkrumah have to be exiled. You saw, of course, Patrice Lumumba, who was assassinated. And I mean, later on, you saw Sankara, who was also assassinated. But this time around, I feel like they learned something different. Like, I feel like they were like, okay, we see what happened there. This time around, we can't be on the, like, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I feel like in the past, like things would happen like behind closed doors. And now they're like, no, we have to be very loudly in alignment. Like, and that actually feels like a little bit more protection.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there are a lot of the stuff that happened in the 60s. There were like these secret agreements. Like I know Kwame Nkrumah signed a secret agreement with Patrice Lumumba. And maybe that was like a form of protection to them. Like they thought about it like, oh, maybe we'd be targeted. But I think right now it really is strategic that they're putting it out there. So now, I mean, what it is right now, honestly, like here in Burkina Faso where I live, President Traoré is so beloved. He's so beloved that if the United States comes and does anything against him, or France, if they come and do anything against him, the people like this, they're mobilized, they're ready. We have, the volunteers for the defense of the homeland. We have, all these citizen brigades that are out and like ready to mobilize in defense of President Traoré. At least in terms of the narrative war, the U.S. is not winning. Like this propaganda war in this context, they're failing because people just love President Traoré so much. So, I think
a big deal though.
Open.
That's a big deal though, because the propaganda war is what's allowed so much to go on for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, they're still trying. They're trying. I mean, even right now, they're, like as in today and yesterday, the media has been at it really hard against Mali. There's been some shortages in the like what do you call it in English, like the gasoline, for the cars.
Damn, you've been gone a while. She said, what do you call it in English?
I don't have people around me to speak English with, you know? So it's like, it's nice to be on the call because I'm like remembering, I'm remembering certain words and like, learning to
That's
speak
funny.
again. But no, for real, like there's been like a whole campaign, even just like today and yesterday in like the international, aka Western media, talking about how there's like gas and fuel shortages in Mali. And some of it is because there was like these basically like these terrorist organizations. We talked about this last month. So I want to call people to look back at that. But they attacked basically like the incoming trucks coming in, bringing in fuel. And like this is, it's so important that we understand like this, and I used this example last time. This is like a Nicaragua, like Sandinista versus Contra situation. Like these aren't just random groups. These are like Western backed organizations.
Yes.
Was it like the very beginning or the very end of last month? I think it was the very beginning of this month, but I might be getting my dates wrong. But there was a UN General Assembly. And so every single one of the countries in the Alliance of Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, sent their prime ministers, and every single one of them, one after the other, said, we know that Western countries are backing these terrorist organizations. Go and listen to their speeches. I mean, they're like, we have the proof.
Yeah.
Mali's like, we've been knocking on the door of the UN General Assembly since 2022, begging to share our proof in an official capacity to say, here's the evidence of France supplying arms and intelligence to these groups. And the door has been shut on us. The UN General Assembly, the UN Security Council will not hear it. France, of course, is a member, so that's why.
I mean, the UN is a joke. I mean, let's be real.
It is. They're all going to vote today. Like all of the countries in the world today are going to vote to say that they need to lift the US blockade on Cuba. The US is going to vote against it, and then the blockade is going to continue. Like it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. But anyways, yeah. But all these leaders in the Sahel have been saying like the West is backing these groups, and so you know when you read these headlines that are coming out like today and yesterday, like no fuel in Mali, it's because these Western-backed groups were basically told to go and target the oil and to like destroy the trucks that are carrying it in. So they're trying really hard to destabilize this revolutionary process. Mali, just like Burkina Faso and Niger, has been coming for its mineral resources. Mali has been coming for gold mines. You know, that's made the Western companies very upset. They've like seized the assets of some of these companies and shut down their operations and said, like, we can't just be allowing you to fly off with our gold. Like, our people are not getting anything out of this. We need to control our gold. Like, you can't just operate this way. And so that's basically, you know, that's been basically the tactic to punish Mali for what they're doing in terms of defending their sovereignty. So it's a process, but we're happy
doing military training with their citizens.
Yes, they are. I think Burkina Faso is the most advanced because Burkina Faso has like this large civilian turned combatant force that like it's a short-term like voluntary service, and there's so many people who want to do it that the government's like, we actually have too many volunteers, and like that's sending them off to do other things now. Like they have the people who have been militarily trained now doing like infrastructure building, road building, and construction. You know, I actually left Burkina Faso for like a month. Just like this year, I came back and my neighborhood was like transformed. Like, oh my gosh, like literally in a month, they built all these new roads. They like, we have like this beautiful, like the roundabout areas have like these beautiful fences and like this beautiful like African art and stuff. Like just right. And like they did this so quickly. I mean, everywhere you go in Ouagadougou right now, you just see construction. It's like they're just building and building and building. And I know the rest of the country is like this too. You know, when you go around, you just see like all of the infrastructure development. It's incredible. And these are people who are, you know, they're being trained militarily. They have like a political education process. They're calling it patriotic education. And then they get trained in like the construction work, and then they get sent out. So they have like all of these skills.
But you see what you just, well, okay. So people always say to me like, Amanda, like you don't have solutions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, the solutions exist in the world like all the time. And when we consider quote unquote solutions, it's not going to be a flipping of the lever. It's not going to be some real quick, like about face and all of a sudden there's no more fascism. The solutions are us. We are the solutions. You just named an actual practical methodology around changing the, not just like the laws, but like the culture of a society.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is so important. And I understand it like so deeply and so personally because I grew up in the US. And so, I had like a list of things growing up in the US that I was against. I was like, I'm against the police, I'm against the prisons, I'm against all these institutions, I'm against the government. But I didn't have the capacity to understand like, what am I for? Like, what are we fighting for? And so I really want to encourage people to look at the revolutions that are happening in Africa across the global south, because it changes your whole perspective to realize like, I'm not saying we shouldn't be against things. Like we should be against imperialism. We should be against capitalism. But to have the framework of being against those things and know like what we want to build, I mean, it's incredible. And so I'm saying like, look at what's happening in terms of the revolutions in Africa and across the global south countries, around the world, what they're building. It's just so incredible and so inspirational. And I think the Sahel is just such a rich place to look at. The people are just so deeply Pan-African. It inspires me so much. This month of October was the anniversary of Thomas Sankara's assassination. So he passed away on October 15th, 1987. Passed away is not the right frame. He was assassinated. He was brutally assassinated. And
I was gonna let you live. I was like, I'm gonna just let it happen right now.
He was assassinated, and it's important to frame it that way. Yes. Blaise Compaoré, who was his right-hand man, was the one who was immediately responsible. But France has promised for decades to declassify information about its role and never has. And so we know that he didn't act alone. France is complicit. The CIA has also given us nothing, and we need to know what their role is and was.
Have you seen the film A Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat?
I was going to bring this up earlier, actually, when you talked about the 60s. Yes, it's a great film. Yes.
I mean, they do a really good job of also just bringing in the surreptitious ways that the United States uses to cover. So for those who haven't seen this film, it's a documentary that talks about how jazz actually, like they use jazz as a backdrop for how the CIA worked with France to undermine the independence of the Congo, right? But a lot of these musicians didn't know that their concerts were being used as CIA meetups. And I mean, you're just like,
you gotta be careful with these things. Who you're dealing with, you gotta know. Yeah, it's hard.
They're literally on camera like, yeah, we were backstage at Louis Armstrong's show. Like, oh, you're here for Lumumba too?
Yeah, it's painful when you look at the history of what they've done, and it's so much of it. And what I love about that movie also is they show like how badly these Western imperialist countries do not want Africa to unite. It was like, we want to unite. It's like we have to do everything to block the unification of Africa. We want to unite. We have to do everything to crush that. And so we're kind of back in that same thing.
Yes.
Where it's like people want to unite. Like they're tired of the colonial borders. And it's here. It's like it's such a strong stance because people really feel that, there's a Sahel identity and there's an African identity that's way greater than the countries that were carved out. They speak the same languages across these countries. They're like the same people. They have family members that live on different sides of the borders. There was a crime that was committed in Berlin a couple hundred years ago that we're still dealing with.
Yes.
I'm talking about the 1884 to 85 Berlin Conference, but people don't see these borders as legitimate. And so this is really at the heart of what the Alliance of Sahel States is about, trying to tear that down. And so I think, October is a great time because people come from all over Africa and the diaspora. We just had a major international festival called FIPAN, which is the Pan-African Festival of Nkok. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It started in a village in Senegal, but now it moves every year. So that was like the name of the first place it started.
Yeah.
So this year it was in Burkina Faso. And then there was also an international conference that was hosted by the Thomas Sankara Memorial. So people came from all over the Caribbean. They came from all over Africa. They came from different parts of the diaspora, including the US and Europe. We had lots of people from, Martinique, from Guadeloupe. We had people coming from all the way from Zambia, South Africa, every West African country was there, delegates from the US. It was incredible. And so we really got to like exchange. It was like the full breadth of the African diaspora, the African continent together, basically saying, we're here to defend Burkina Faso. We're here to defend the Alliance of Sahel States, and to honor the legacy of Thomas Sankara. So powerful time. It was a powerful month in Burkina Faso.
What would you say currently are the impediments to Pan-Africanism on the continent?
Okay, there's a few things. I mean, so in the Sahel, on the level of consciousness, it's clear. Like sometimes I go and I talk to Africans and people, I call everybody of African descent Africans, by the way. Like I'm like, we're all Africans, okay? So that's what I mean. But when I talk to people like in the US, sometimes they're like, oh, it's not realistic. Like people don't want to unite. Here in the Sahel, we do not have that problem. People are very crystal clear. Like it's not even a debate here. But unfortunately, there's other countries, and I mentioned two earlier, that are like strongholds of these like neo-colonial forces. So Ivory Coast, which is just to the south of Burkina Faso, as I mentioned, they just had a quote unquote election of Alassane Ouattara, an 83-year-old man, staunch French ally, somebody who, as far as some news reporting has suggested, is signing or in the works of signing a deal with AFRICOM, the U.S. military force, to build a drone base in the north of the country, right near Mali and Burkina Faso. And, we're supposed to believe he won. The whole country's in protest right now. There's countries like in flames because people are,
in Ivory Coast. You see,
and Ivory Coast.
You see, you guys, this is why we have the Africa Tap In, because there's revolutions and resistance happening that we don't even know about.
Yeah. And in the same time, and it's crazy, like the span of this was all like this week, basically. The same week, Cameroon, same thing. Cameroon has the world's oldest head of state. I believe he's 92 years old. He just allegedly won his 8th term. We're supposed to believe that. The country's also on fire. I mean, it's like there's been a brutal repression of opposition forces. And so it's hard because we have like these like this liberated zone, the Alliance of Sahel States, and there's just like this pocket of resistance. But then we have these countries that are like staunchly, just like how like the neo-colonizers have like their claws on them, and it's just been a long struggle to get, any sort of wiggle room to get out of that. People are waking up. They've had it, with these leaders, but I think it will be a process for some of these countries to have leadership that is really revolutionary and Pan-African like we see in the Sahel. And so that's a roadblock. Yeah, for sure. And there's another thing I want to say, and it's really important. We have to be organized as a people. Wherever we are, we have to be organized as a people. And so, if you're listening to this, regardless of where you live, if it's the US, if it's Canada, if it's on the continent, if it's in the Caribbean, if it's in Europe, I really want to encourage people to tap in with some organization. It can be any organization in their local community or an international organization, something that really has that objective of African liberation worldwide. Because, sometimes we think about it like it's just the leaders fall from the sky and then they'll just swoop in and take care of us. That's not really how it works. We build things from the bottom up. That's actually how it happened here. We think that Traoré just came to power. It was a coup and, he's here now. That's actually not what happened. It started actually with the grassroots level first. It was years and years and years in the making of a grassroots struggle against French imperialism in Mali and then in Burkina and then in Niger. And that made and produced the possibility of having these 3 leaders come and take power. So please organize, join something, tap into something.
When I tell you, like, I tell people that and they're like, that's not a solution. And I'm like, that is literally the solution, particularly in a propagandized country where we have 100% been the victims of psychological warfare to prevent that from us. Like, we don't have empathy for each other. We don't have empathy for ourselves. We don't have knowledge of self. I mean, I know that may sound cheesy, but like we really don't. And those things, when those things are awakened, you start getting activated to say, wait, I want to live different. Who's preventing me from living the way I want to live? It's them. Everybody, let's go. Like, that's how it happens. And I'm trying to show folks different insights into that. And so I'm so happy to have you here with us, because what you named earlier about the 3 different like pockets where they're training people, right? They're getting political education, they're getting like practical, like trade education, and then they're getting the ability to apply it, right? So then you get confidence. And that's the other thing that people don't have here. This is the most insecure. I mean, listen, because I say this as someone who has dated Americans, the most insecure population of humans is in this country. I dare somebody argue me down. We don't have confidence. We have arrogance, and arrogance is empty. But the confidence that you're talking about around the people of the Sahel, to me, what you're describing is people who are built on foundation, right? Like they're building, the people themselves, the culture, the society is being built on foundation. And so in a nation that is a narcissist country that is completely built on lies, we have to tell the truth. You know, like at this point, honestly, in a message, like truth is my religion. Like that's it. Like truth is my religion. Like I'm praying for the truth every day. Tell me the truth, please. I want to know. And so I really just love that we're able to get to talk to you and speak to somebody who is in the thick of things, because if you weren't saying it, I don't know that people would believe it.
No, I mean, it's real. It's so real. It's so real. And I think, for me to be part of this process, I mentioned last time, I'm a part of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. I'm a part of the Thomas Sankara Center. Being part of the organizations has changed my whole scope and perspective in life. Like I wouldn't be here in Burkina Faso having this perspective and being part of what's happening if it wasn't for those things. And so I really want to encourage people to tap into literally anything that's fighting for African people around the world, because it will change you and for the better. And I think, it's really hard when you're in the US. I mean, it's by intention, it's designed, it's really built to be that way. And then especially now, I mean, it's just I think there's a less and less hope. There's less and less hope, but this is the time to really tap in with the African continent also, and to tap in with the global South countries as a whole, because it's the US is not doing very well right now. It's declining, but it doesn't mean the entire world entirely is falling apart. I know in the US, a lot of people have this perspective it's the apocalypse, it's the end of our days. But at the same time, it's these other countries are kind of using that wiggle space of the US kind of crumbling to get free. They're breaking the chains right now. And so this is the time. I mean, if there's ever a time in history to be I want to get with the winning team, let me, hop off and give and I don't even mean physically, you have to leave. That's not my point. But in terms of your allegiance, being clear, I know what side of history I'm going to be on. This is the moment. This is the moment where it's you want to make yourself clear. I am with the people who are fighting imperialism all around the world. That's my side. That's my team. This is the time to really align yourself with the right side of history. And you'll be a lot less sad, because I think if you don't have that right now and you're just kind of looking at the US and it's your scope is this is it, this is what it is. I mean, it's hard. I would be devastated. But the fact that I know internationally, worldwide, a lot of people are getting free right now, I wake up in the morning and I'm happy,
Listen, you are a blessing to me today, because when I came on, I was just I mean, when you look at the headlines, I'm just going to read you some headlines this is on one page. Okay. This is on one page, and I'm just going to read you the series of headlines. Trump's Yemen strike kills 61 immigrants and no combatants. Newly released data reveals Air Force suicide crisis after years of concealment. This 16-year-old American is among hundreds of Palestinian children jailed in Israel. Netanyahu is blowing up the Gaza ceasefire, and Trump is the one losing face. Did the TSA really rely on controversial counter-extremism group to put names on a secret watch list? And here's the last one. An NYPD camera points directly into their bedroom. They're suing over it. This is I just feel if you don't live here, that would feel nah, it can't all be like that. And it just drains you. I mean, if I don't go to sleep by 10:30 and Messett, it's a wrap. The next day, I'm going to be depressed.
I mean, it's so hard, because I feel if you live out there, are you ever going to just come across casually a headline that's Mali, claps back to US, removed from the list? You're never going to see a headline like that.
No.
You're never going to see, African diaspora from around the world comes to join gathering in Burkina Faso, meets with President Ibrahim Traoré to discuss, future development of Africa. You're not going to see a headline like that, which is why it's you got to kind of look for it yourself. But I'm telling you, if you organize, if you start to educate yourself, and if you align with the anti-imperialist resistance worldwide, you're going to get a lot of positive news. It's not just all bad. You're going to start to see again, these chains are being broken. We're getting free out here, and it's an exciting time, and it's a blessing. I just am in awe that I'm like witnessing these changes, and everybody around me is like, it's a different vibe here. It's like people are so hopeful. People feel like, the future generations are going to be living way better lives than they're currently living. I know in the US it's kind of the opposite, and it's just really hard, but here it's like, wow, we've been exploited and so long, like we've been colonized, and like for the first time, we feel, at least for the first time since Sankara, we feel like there's hope. We feel like, there's gonna be more jobs for our people. We're already seeing it happening. We feel like we're gonna have a way better educational system. We feel the literacy rate is gonna, get higher. Unfortunately, in the US, it looks like it's going the opposite way. The healthcare system
starting
better.
a whole children's show about reading for this purpose, like solely for that purpose.
Yeah, read, please. They want to take away our ability to do that. Don't let them do that. Please pick up books and read and articles, anything, get your mind in that space. Practice
this is my
it.
cat, Sankara.
Oh my God, so cute.
This is
Hi,
Sankara.
I love
Yes.
cats. Sankara is adorable. Aww.
This is Sankara. Lumumba
So
was up
cute.
here before, but I don't know where he went.
Oh, Sankara and Lumumba.
Yes.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, so cute, so cute.
Well, we have one question that I would love to get your thoughts on, because I think this is really applicable to now. Ms. Richardson, would you please say more about, or could you please say more about what it actually looks like to join an organization? Much of the U.S. thinks of it as like signing up for a mailing list for the ACLU.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. So like I mentioned before, like a couple organizations I'm in. So I'm in the Thomas Sankara Center, which is local here, but I'm also in the All African People's Revolutionary Party, the APRP, which is international. You can join them from anywhere, and they have chapters across the US. There's also organizations like the Black Alliance for Peace. So if you're US based, that would be another one to tap into. There's Dream Defenders. There's Malcolm X grassroots movement. There's a bunch that I'm probably forgetting. But the point is just to look around and find something. There's a lot that are local to specific cities and areas. And what it might look like to be organizing day to day or week to week or month to month or whatever, like it might depend on the organization that you're in. We do a lot of political education in our organizations, and then we go out and do work to basically spread that political education. Anything that, we might do like an event here that talks about what's happening in Sudan or Congo, or Palestine. So these are the kinds of things basically just to get people involved. And then, it really does change the capacity of what's possible, especially like out here, we have leaders that listen to us. So it's a little bit easier. Like if we make a lot of noise, they'll take it up. But in the US, it also makes a difference, and it's hard, but you build networks internationally and you're able to support struggles that are happening worldwide. And it will make a difference. So please check out these organizations I mentioned or other ones.
I don't think you understand how you changed a whole 435 people's space today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
No, for real. Because this, it's also fall, so it's like gloomy, you know what I mean, over here. Like, so there's definitely like and they do such a great job of keeping you in chaos, right? Of just saying like every day there's just some new level of nonsense that you're like, how is this even possible? And it really does begin to wear on you, and then you have to like shore up your energies, so that's what we do here at Views from Inland. That's what I do on my Patreon. That's what I do when I come into these live spaces. I try to speak into folks to remind us like, no, tap into that little reserve back there, that ancestral reserve. And what you're telling us is really encouraging. So thank you so much, Nnemesi.
You're
and
welcome.
We are so happy to be able to connect with you and to get this eyewitness accounts, y'all. Okay, this ain't the BBC.
Yes. And I'll just say, like, if you're interested in like learning more, the work that we do in Burkina Faso, we're on Instagram. It's called Burkina Books. So check that out, Burkina Books on Instagram. We share as much as we can about what's happening, with the people on the ground in Burkina, with our leaderships here, and ways to support as well. If you're interested in, supporting the Alliance of Sahel States, we bring in revolutionary and Pan-African books out here to build libraries. So please check out Burkina Books. And if you're having a bad day, just, remember, at least we have the Alliance of Sahel States. At least we have Ibrahim Traoré. At least we have Assimi Goïta. At least we have Abdourahmane Chani. And then, put a smile on your face, hopefully, and let that be what gets you through to the end of the day, because it's what gets me through to the end of the day.
Okay, this cat is trying to not let me get to the end of the show. Hold on. Oh
Oh,
my
Sankara. This is dedicated to you.
Well, thank you again. You guys go to Burkina Books and keep doing what you're doing, and we will continue to support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate being on.
Bye. Y'all, we needed that. We needed that. Dance break. Hey. Come on. Let's get this energy up. My pants match my outfit. My pants match my sweatshirt. We can't get too depressed, no. If we do, then we're gonna go. So show your love, show your love, show your love, show your love, show it. Yeah. Someone said, not Miss Seals throwing it back. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. Okay. I spent quite some time in front of the sliding glass window, using it as a giant mirror to learn how to drop it. Okay. I can make it clap. But I mean, I don't have hips, so I feel like the effect of what I'm doing doesn't come across as much as I would like it to. But yeah, so we have a little bit of time before our next guest, and we will do a quick spill. We talked about Cameroon, so let's get into how Black do you feel today. Let's do that. How black do you feel today? So what you are watching is a video of a forest ranger in Cameroon being greeted by a chimp who he clearly has a relationship with. And him and the chimp are just hanging out, eating an apple. Just literally, like the way the chimp greeted this man, like, my dog, what's good? Like this to me, look at this. Look at the chimp. The chimp said, let me look at you real quick. Let me start grooming you. Let me start taking care of you real quick. This is love. This is stewardship, right? And this is how Black I feel today, because when I tell you that the connection to nature and to animals and to just everything beyond what we have been taught humanity is the thing that's keeping me sane, that's giving me some kind of grounding into like, we're gonna be okay. Because I'm like, how did we even get here? How did we get here? Like, I try and think about things like this all the time. So I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna tell you my theory. Y'all gonna be like, Amanda, do you do mushrooms? No, I don't. So in my mind, there is the US is literally a proxy war that, I'm sorry, the planet of Earth is a proxy war being fought by other interplanetary beings. Okay. And the way they be battling is by adding other organic beings to battle each other. So you have one planetary being that's out there that was like, oh, look at that planet. Like we can bring life to that planet, and then we'll be able to like expand the dopeness of our people. And then this other, like the bad guy aliens was like, nah, we don't like y'all. So we about to go over there and drop some aspects on there that's gonna counter y'all. And so you end up seeing like all of these like beings from protozoa to plants, etc., that end up popping up to like counter each other. Cause you be like, why do we need a strangler fig? Why? Like there's all these parasites that be popping out. You like, what's the point of this? And it just feels like something otherworldly introduced it to counter the flourishing that was happening. And so then that evolution continues to happen. Crypto Deli said the bad guy aliens. Yeah. So then the evolution continues to happen because they keep like outdoing each other. And then we get to humans. And now you got humans that are parasites, as well as humans that are like, nah, let's protect the earth. So if you ask me, I'm from the good guy aliens. And then the other ones is from the bad guy aliens. So that's what I'm on. And I really like, this is what I'm on. You feel like I could write a science fiction book based on this? I don't know what the outcome of this is, but this is what I'm on. Because I really be trying to make it make sense just so I can get through. Because I'm like, what? So, shout out to all the good guy aliens. Oh, I know about the Anunnaki. I know about the star seeds. All of that. I'm just saying. Laurel said, let book 2 of the series deal with that. Just get book 1 out. I feel you. Yeah, what would the ancestors say? In space. If you're just joining us, make sure that you mark your calendar for November 8th for What Would the Ancestors Say? My live stream live from LA. Live stream and book release is going down. You can get your tickets at amandaseals.com. And I am very excited about this piece of work. And I also have come to realize that this piece of work is different than I thought it was. It really is a unique form of literature. Oh, we have a loser on here. Someone said, you have a globe and believe in aliens. Time to unsubscribe. Go for it, white man. Go for it. Get out of here. Like the fact that y'all be spending time in your day to come and try and harass somebody who's literally up here making it drop in leggings that match her sweatshirt and she didn't even buy them together. Like that's what y'all are doing. When y'all hate on me, I need you to understand that like you're somewhere hating on me and I am in my house like procrastinating by way of like doing something very silly. Okay? Like that's the type of thing I'd be like, you are somewhere like really angry about my existence, and I am here singing my name at the top of my lungs. My name is Amanda Seals. Someone in here saying, are you able to clarify the picture that I took with Jill Stein? Clarify? Did I take a picture with David Duke? Y'all are too comfortable. Y'all really are on one on this internet. Clarify? Like, whether you agree with Jill Stein or not, like, she's not. When did I say I don't like Jill Stein? I don't know nothing about Jill Stein. I don't know nothing about Jill Stein. She's in the Green Party. When did I say I don't like Jill Stein? If y'all don't stop confusing me with Angela goddamn Rye, that's a different light skin. Golly. Y'all are annoying as hell. Did y'all know that? Talk to y'all friends. And you know what's funny is that I was at that event and a sister did confuse me with Angela Rye. I was sitting with Brianna Joy Gray and this woman was like, that's Brianna Joy Gray and Angela Rye. And I was like, no. That's not Angela Rye. That's Amanda Seals. Different. No. Mm-mm. No, because I am not. Because again, I can't rock with folks that are continuing to push Democrat rhetoric, even though we all see what it is and we know better. I can't get down with that. Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. And now that I know better, I'm like, why were you ever pushing it anyway? And why were you pushing me to push it? Like, Let me show y'all the picture that this lady talking about also. Okay? This is the picture they talking about. Can you explain yourself? This is the picture that she's talking about. Explain yourself. You would swear that no, Gail is the one who need to explain herself. She's taking selfies with an actual racist. Y'all are over here talking about Kundis like, oh, they were really friends, her and homeboy. They were really friends. She was friends with a Klan member. Like, what? Like, I just so I mean, girl, Kimberly, you know how they be doing us light skins. You know how they be doing us light skins. So no, I am not gonna clarify this picture. You will not see me in a picture with somebody I gotta clarify. I'm thankful to this day that I wasn't at a level of famous where I would get invited to the Obama White House, because I would have went. And then now I would be over here being like, my fault, y'all. My fault. So I'd be like, thank you, Jesus. Thank y'all for not letting me have to apologize later for stuff. No. Also, like, why won't people let people evolve? You know, like, I be seeing like bots. I don't know, because they could be bots who be trying to undermine me. Like, Amanda Seals is a fake leftist because she used to be all about Biden. I'm like, yeah. 5 years ago. You know how much has happened in 5 years? Someone literally had to remind me that I was on tour doing stand-up last year. That felt literally 5 years. That felt like 5 years ago. Last year feels like 5 years ago. Is it just me? I know it's not. Last year feels like 5 years ago. So, like, cut it out. Just said, can you clarify how you got the best position in the photo? Laying down. My shoes was off too. Both B and Brianna had our shoes off. Yeah. So, like, miss me with that. Miss me with that. Let's get into some high quality whiteness. How about that? Shall we? And I'm going to work on this intro. I just haven't had time, but it's going to be worth it when it happens. So today's high quality white is the new Irish president.
As a small country that's a post-colonial country, a history of famine and a resolution of the conflict in the north on a peaceful means, if we do not use our voice to call out genocide and allow the normalisation of genocide, we're in serious trouble. And I don't think it's what the people of Ireland want. I have no difficulty looking forward to serving as President of Ireland and using my voice in different ways, as diplomatically as possible, in compliance with the Constitution. But any sensible person in Ireland, anybody that stands and reads and looks at what's happening, would have to be concerned at the increasing money going into the militarisation of Europe. And that's the direction that we're going. And my views are shared by quite a number of people in Ireland at the increasing militarisation, while we cut back on welfare, we cut back on housing, and we cut back on other essential services.
That's how you answer a question. That's Catherine Connolly. Catherine Connolly, who is the new president of Ireland. And her voice sounds like a babbling brook near a fairy, near like a fairy house. You know, when you have to go by like a wee well. No, wee is Scottish. I get a little bit mixed up. But I just love it. I love an Irish accent. I love trying to do an Irish accent. And then it gets Scottish if I do it too much, because then I start to roll my R's. And that's not. So let's get back. Yes. So this is the new white lady that's going to be running Ireland. And she is very Irish and she speaks the Irish language. Shout to Kneecap. Okay. And she also is very connected to like the Irish histories of the Irish people, right? So not just like Ireland as a current country in the world, but also the cultural and indigenous practices of Ireland that they say that the colonizers basically just got rid of, right? And so the thing about Gaelic as the name is that I was told that Gaelic is actually not the name of the Irish language. It's basically a group of languages like Semite, right? So like the Semitic languages are anyone who speaks languages of that group of language. That's why the term anti-Semitic is nonsensical, because Palestinians are Semitic. All right. Like if you speak Arabic, like that's a Semitic language. So Gaelic is also the similar, like a grouping of languages. You know how there's also like the Romantic languages and whatnot. So I have heard that Irish people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard Irish people say that they speak Irish and that it's Irish Gaelic. Right? Right. So we are going to bring on two guests in a minute, but they're not here yet. We have one, but I think this is really speaks to, like, we literally got on the show in one mindset, and I feel like just literally by talking about anything but America, we're getting in a better mindset. Like, we're getting in a different energy space. And we have to do that. So that we just learned a very important lesson today. Okay? Like when we find ourselves going down these paths, we just learned a tool that we can use. Just get outside of the US, even like on your devices. Just start taking in outside of US things. So like yesterday I went swimming and I was so immediately regulated that I was mad at myself that I had not gone to the YMCA. Because, you know, for anybody who has to work out, you'd be like, oh, that means I got to like leave the house. I got to put on whatever particular type of clothing is called for this thing. And then I have to like go. And then once I get there, I have to like arrive. I gotta like get out of my car or get off of the bus or come up from the train and then like go inside. And then I'm gonna like have to like do the thing. And then after, I'm gonna have to like come home and like shower. Ugh. Like So if you're me, I do all of that and I'm just like, never mind. When really it's like, just go and do the thing. Go and do the thing. I get my bathing suits from Swim Outlet and I get long sleeve bathing suits and I be in there and I just be talking to myself in the water. And I realize every single time, I'm like, why you gotta realize this every time? So now what I need to do is like this will give me a reason to like make a poster. Put together something that says like tools for regulation. I actually need to just put it up in the house. That's what I need to do. I need to put it up in the house, tools for regulation, so that I can physically look at it and see it and apply it. Because when it's in my mind, it's a lot easier for me to ignore it and just be like, even if it's like, I got to put on music. I'm like, I got to like press a button. No, shake your head yes or no if you want to wait for your other. Oh, voila! All right, we are about to get into our level us up guests for the day. Let's get dangerous. I don't know why I do that every time. Well, because it makes me happy to think about Darkwing Duck. All right, let's do it. Amandaland. Wow! You all, our Level Us Up guests today are Gnome Schuster. Now, okay, I've seen the hyphen removed in some cases, so
it's non-binary.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if it was a divorce.
No.
Okay. We've got Gnome Schuster Eliassi and Amber Fairs, the director and star of the. Amber, are you somewhere where they're doing a call to prayer?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. Let me move.
Okay.
It sounded like a call to prayer for a second.
I was like, I think that's a call to prayer. Should we? Bismillah. And they are the star and director of Coexistence My Ass, a documentary.
Amanda, when you say it. Okay.
So I feel like I want you to explain what Coexistence My Ass is in terms, because I feel like my rendering is going to be different, and then I will give mine. So from you as the creator, what is this documentary doing or seeking to do?
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to let Noam explain what Coexistence My Ass is, because it's the title of her comedy show.
Well, when I said creator, I meant her.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant me as a creator of the film.
No, I meant her as the creator of the reason for the film.
Okay.
This name started as a joke because of how exhausted and frustrated I felt with the peace industry and peace movement that I was brought up into. And comedy, saved my life because it allowed me to step out of like my UN suit and the reports and the analysis and the language that I have to calculate and to call the bullshit, And I grew up in the only community in the country where Palestinians and Jews live together by choice.
In Israel.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up with Palestinians. But my household, like my parents, are extremely political. So I grew up in a very political household where my dad used to go in and out of Israeli military prison for refusing to serve in the
So
occupied
are both of your parents Israeli?
Well, I mean, yes, technically, yes. My mother was born in Iran. She's an Iranian Jewish woman.
Okay.
And my dad is son of Holocaust survivors from Romania. He was born in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And my parents they developed their political and social awareness together, and their move to move to this community was not an intentional like, oh, kumbaya, let's live together. Like they saw it as like a political action. So I grew up in a very political household, but then in the community and the international media that was covering us and the environment and the peace industry that came with it growing up here, always wanted this like safe framework of, oh my God, Noam, let's get like a photo op of you and your best Palestinian friend, and then post a picture and be like, see, Israelis and Palestinians are getting along and they can live together, and it's amazing. Coexist, yes. But from a very, very early age, I saw that even some Jewish Israelis who grew up with me, who know about the Nakba, who grew up very much aware, grew up with Palestinian, neighbors, still think that within this framework, it's okay, for example, to go to the military, or to, not show up with actions, having seen what we've seen growing up like this. And I just always felt like my mission is different. And I felt like my identity also being a Mizrahi Jew, because I know what my grandmother also suffered from, a system that, a European, my grandmother being an Iranian non-European Jew, I know how she was considered. And I saw the similarities, and I saw the patterns of oppression. And I just couldn't ignore what I can do with my privilege as an Israeli Jew, instead of just enjoying the nice decoration of coexistence in Arabic and Hebrew and Israelis and Palestinians. And so the act of bringing coexistence mass on stage was my wish to unpack all of these things and to unmask all of these things. And luckily, Amber really loved the name and the idea, and was documenting me kind of in the process of doing all of this.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how did you guys find each other in this process, Amber?
Actually, we're old friends. We knew each other. I lived in Ramallah for many years, making my first documentary film, and Noam was there working for the UN. And then
what was that film?
The film was called Speed Sisters. It's about a group of Palestinian women race car drivers that compete in the West Bank. So that was about 10 years ago that I made that film. And Noam and I became friends while I was when I was living there. And then I left Palestine. She left the UN, and I moved to the States, to New York. And I saw that Noam sort of made this transition into comedy, which I was like, what is she doing? Like, I was very confused, because I know that she was like,
has like a UN.
Yeah, I knew her as like, and also like Israeli, speaking Arabic, having, a lot of Palestinian friends. Like the whole context of Noam was like so different than anyone else that I had met while I was living there. And then she got a fellowship to develop this comedy show at the Peace and Divinity School at Harvard. And so she came to the States, and then that's where we reconnected. And she was explaining to me about the idea of coexistence, my ass. And I just thought that it was like such an interesting perspective and such an interesting way to sort of get into these issues. And so I picked up a camera, and I went to Boston basically the next weekend. And one of the very first things that we shot that day was her at the John Harvard shoe. It was like, within hours of me getting there. So, and that was like the start of that was November 2019.
And where are you from?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Canadian, but my grandparents all came to Canada from Lebanon. So Lebanese Canadian. Yeah.
Okay. So nobody here is a Zionist. Got it. I was like getting very panicky.
No, there's no Zionists on this team.
Like, did I fuck up with these folks? So Noam, what has been the response from both sides? Like, because that's part of the conversation, the coexistence of it all. So what has been the response from, and actually, you know what, let me not say both sides, because the reality is there isn't just two sides, right? You've got Jewish folks who are anti-Zionists, you've got Zionists, you've got Palestinians, you've got folks that are also a part of the Arab community that are kind of like whatever? So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, this film is definitely challenging a lot of people. Like, we got some, messages, especially from Jews who need to have like better, braver conversations and actions. And, that has been like, I think hearing these things from an Israeli Jew, on one hand, it's really hard for some Jewish audiences. And, on the other hand, it's like, oh, now they believe it. And then I tell the audience, like, why do you need to hear it from an Israeli Jew? And Palestinians have been saying this for decades. And what we're saying in the film, it's a very simple truth, and we're saying something that Palestinians also have been saying for a long time. And still you see audiences that are so reassured and so relieved to hear it from an Israeli Jew. And in every Q&A and in every conversation, we make it very, very present to the audience, so that the people who have experienced that it's easier for them to hear these things from an Israeli Jew, that they go and do their homework, or they go and do more educating. The responses are incredible. Like, I really
What's like one thing that you feel like they're responding to that you were intentional about?
I have to tell you about Poland. It was the film opened a really big film festival in Poland, and there were like thousands of young people. And after the screening, they were lining up. And also I did a stand-up show, like, and all the proceeds went to Gaza and everything. So a lot of young people came, and they were lining up, to talk, and they were all saying very similar things, like, oh, the history here, because of the history here in Poland, we can't criticize Israel. And now we see you, and we feel like we have the permission to do it, like, through you. And then they went on to say how all their grandparents were in the resistance to the Nazis. I'm like, guys, it doesn't add up that all your grandparents the resistance. I've read some books, I know you want to feel better about yourself. So I felt like I was getting a glimpse into the future of what people will,
Exactly.
Everybody
All of our grandparents, everybody was against them. You sure? Because I don't know if you all would all be here if everybody was against them.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, it's like watching young people getting, there's so many stupid conversations out there that it's just really amazing that through my story, which is not really my story anymore, I feel like with this film, it's like a bigger conversation. And it's really amazing to see what kind of conversations it brings up with especially young people.
Yeah, I also want to say too, this is like an example sort of what we've been able to do with this film. We were the opening film at the San Francisco Jewish Film Festival this year, which was like a huge thing to open that festival. And we were able to get the Arab Film and Media Institute to co-present that screening at the start of a Jewish film festival. And that just sort of gives you an example of how this film is able to reach not only both of those types of audiences, but also those audiences together. And the type of feedback that we've been getting, is, I think for some Jewish, like at the end of that festival, I had a mother come up to me. She was there with her 20-year-old, her college aged daughter. And they said that this was the first time that they were able to have a conversation about what was happening, because it helped them bridge that gap. There was they were so separate, they were so different in terms of their opinions. And after the film kind of opened that pathway to be able to sort of have those conversations. And I think in general, the response that we've been getting is that the film sits with you for a while. It's a film that you think about for long after sort of the lights go up in the theater, and that it does open up sort of conversations it's something I'm incredibly proud about with this film, is that we have been able to reach really a broad audience.
Where do you feel like the conversation should be going? That this film, because I mean, we haven't seen the film, so you guys are speaking about things in a way that it's like, okay, but where does the film take people that you feel like they need to go that has not been that they haven't been taken?
Well, first of all, I hope people laugh. It's it's some of my attempts to, actually make this funny, and to see me try to navigate, because I do comedy in Hebrew, Arabic, and English. So there's a lot of like navigation going on in the film of me trying to speak to different audiences, but always make it political, because everything is political, obviously. And there is a very simple truth that people ignore. And so I think that
What is the simple truth that they're ignoring?
we're not going to spoil it for you, but coexistence doesn't happen between the oppressor and the oppressed.
You're not going to spoil it for us, because
No.
we want to know why we want to go watch a movie.
No,
about
no, it was just,
Okay, so it's not Marvel, but because the truth of the matter is that, for me, I feel like I want to support things that are going to not be, particularly around this topic, that are not going to pussyfoot around it, right?
Mhm.
Because that's what I feel like so many of us have seen. And as somebody who comes from, I was in the entertainment business, like, you never get to have the real discussion, right? And it always is like a very soft landing, and it's always a very protective of feelings conversation versus a protective of people conversations. And so, that's what I'm trying to understand. Just like, how do you feel like this film differs from that?
I think one of the things
my ass gives an indication.
I think one of the things that the film does that a lot of other films right now is that, because we have such, it basically it shows us the last 5 years leading up to October 7th. And so you see the rise in fascism, you see annexation, you see peace deals happening, you see all of the things that sort of led us up to where we are now. With October 7th, and then the destruction of Gaza that has come afterwards. And it's through the perspective of Noam, who is trying to ring the alarm bells within her own community.
Gotcha.
Like, we have to take the Palestinians into account. This cannot be democracy only for Jews. We have to deal with the occupation. We have to deal with the oppression that we're subjugating Palestinians to, and nobody wanted to hear what she was saying. And I think that is something that this film is uniquely positioned in, is that it's not just about what happened on that one particular day. There's a whole history prior to that. Absolutely. And it sort of allows the audience to have a better understanding of how we got to where we are now.
Yeah, I think by the time the film gets to like October 2023, there's already a trajectory of me trying to like screaming like pro-democracy protest in Tel Aviv, where I'm going around the protest and I'm asking people, is this protest also, are you here because of the Palestinians? Like, right. Are you also here because of the political situation? They're like, no. This is only an anti-Netanyahu protest, and this protest is only about our democracy. And I was like, and I'm asking like, so this is not about us controlling another people? You don't think that is the core issue that makes it like a non-democracy? And you just see how people actively, like on the ground, even the people who consider themselves liberal and progressive, they're not understanding the core issues. And the occupation is normalized for decades, and dehumanization of Palestinians is normalized for decades. And way before October 2023, I'm trying to do it in comedy spaces and in different spaces, and then by the time October 2023 happens, those comedians that have normalized not talking about these issues or just being racist and dehumanizing Palestinians, they are using comedy and the stage for genocide jokes, continuing the dehumanization of Palestinians, and basically complicit in enabling genocide. And it's also like, for me, I've really experienced a heartbreak with this tool. I mean, the tool of comedy that is supposed to be used to expose the power structure, to speak power. And you see comedians in the US helping the reelection Trump basically becoming propaganda war machines. And here in Israel, comedians that I used to be in lineups with are performing in army bases in front of soldiers before they're about to go into Gaza to commit like genocidal war crimes. So all of these, things, all of these themes, they are in there with, the biggest message that is there is no coexistence when we are actively erasing the existence of Palestinians. There will be no coexistence. And so that's the essence of coexistence, my ass. I wish that the film would have ended differently. My aim with coexistence, my ass, was not to be right. But unfortunately, I am right.
So, does Israel have a right to exist?
It's I love the answer of what's her name,
Jessica Albanese.
Jessica Albanese. I mean, in the way that Israel is structured today, no. I mean,
It's never not been structured this way, though.
Yeah, I mean, erasing another people, and Israelis don't know how it's like to live on the expense of Palestinians. We don't have that alternative, and we don't have even that imagination of how this could be. And so obviously
what?
Obviously I'm not a supporter of Israel. And I'm
gonna tell you why. Because Noam, you are doing something very brave. Mm-hmm. However, it is something that you signed up for, and that is going to require this of you in a time where particularly as you said, and as a fellow comic, like comedy is now being used. Comedy has always been used as the voice in the darkness, right? Like, because you can kind of bring people along through laughter, even if they don't really notice it, right? And then you have film, which has for so often been a way to bring these aspects to people's lives that they wouldn't have any access to. And now we're just seeing the way that propaganda has really expanded. Here in the US, all of the film companies are now like owned by very loud Zionists, and they're actively saying, we're not going to make any movies that are not propaganda, essentially. And then you have, like you said, all these comics who, if they're not being tools for oppressive voices, they're being silent, right? They're just like not talking about it in general. So it becomes the role of any comics who are conscious and aware from wherever point of view we are to be very direct, loud, and not leave room for assumption or for guessing, particularly on this topic. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, what? You're like, it's obvious. No, it's not, because we haven't seen the movie yet.
I thought you've seen the movie. I'm sorry.
No, I haven't. I haven't seen the movie yet. So I did not get to see the film.
It seems from the beginning that you've seen the movie. So I was like, when you asked me this question, I'm like, what? Like, obviously.
Oh, it did? Then I am a good interviewer, but no, I have not seen the film. I mean, I have seen the trailer.
Iran won't give me another passport. As soon as I have another passport, believe me, this question is like.
You said Iran won't give you another passport?
I'm joking, because my mom was born in Iran, but obviously I can't get an Iranian passport. So.
I that's not obvious to me. I actually, as an American, we don't know anything about a lot of other places.
Okay.
So they do a really good job here of keeping us very ignorant to. So, I mean, I didn't even know if you had an Iranian passport but can you?
No.
Even if your mother is from Iran?
Well, she was born in Iran in like the 50s, which was a different regime, a different time.
Yeah. Because, all the Americans here are trying to figure out how they can get other passports.
Right.
To get out of here. That's really the
plan. They will even take an Iranian passport other than American passport.
So you're on tour with the film. How has the festival responses been to, like, what have you had any surprises?
No, I mean, the festival tour, we've probably screened at about 50 festivals around the world right now since January. So we've had like a very, very robust festival tour. And we're now just opening theatrically, actually tonight at the IFC in New York, followed by screenings in Chicago, Houston, LA, San Francisco, Detroit. And so, but yeah, no, surprisingly, like we have not had a lot of, there's, you know, a few questions here and there, but for the most part, the film has been like very, very well received with audiences around the world, really.
Why do you think that is? Because I feel like a film of this nature in this time would get shut down.
I think that, you know, because of Noam, because we are in some ways centering an Israeli Jew, right? That it gets people into the theater. We have it, and then once they see the film, I think that there's I think people are refreshed. Like I think there's something refreshing about Noam and what it is that she's saying in this film. People are wanting. There's a lot of people that are coming to the Palestinian issue for the first time, and they're trying to understand meaning and context. And I think that what Noam provides is really an alternative way forward, right? One that is inclusive, one that does recognize the rights of everyone, and certainly demands the rights of Palestinians, of somebody from privilege and power using that in order to advocate for the oppressed. And I think that I think the film speaks to a lot of different audiences in different ways. I also think right now, you know, film festivals are also much more progressive. I think the people that go to film festivals are much more progressive. And I think that if there are people that have issues with the film, which I'm absolutely sure that they're not as vocal, right? And so it's not necessarily questions that are being asked. They're not necessarily coming up and speaking to us afterwards. You know, I'm sure that there's like a lot about this film that make people feel absolutely uncomfortable.
Or there's the famous question of, what about Hamas?
Yeah.
Why are you not speaking? There's always that.
You know what's always funny about that too? It's like, you don't actually want us to get started talking about Hamas, because then it's going to just be more and more and more uncomfortable truths that come along with that, because there's no Hamas in the West Bank.
Go ask Netanyahu.
Go ask Netanyahu who was funding.
Supporter.
You know, like there's
asking me.
So I always feel like, if you want to, do you want to do that? You want to have that conversation? Because it ends up being just a further showing of the difference between having facts and having brainwash.
But these are the kind of people who like sometimes like show up and are being faced with like how little they know and how ignorant they are. So, I mean,
I'm honestly impressed that you managed to do this in a way that didn't have them like throw drinks at the screen, because when I see Israeli protests, I'm like, damn, like y'all are so violent. And it really is like a different level of rage. So the last question I'll ask about, which I get, this is talked about in the film, is, does the place where you grew up still exist?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Why?
Because there is, I mean, why? Wow. Wow. I'm not that good in all those answers. I'm trying to like, why does this place still exist? Who knows? It's just like one place that manages to exist.
But Noam, you've said that Noam has recently moved back to the village and has said that during this time it is probably the only sane place to be.
Yeah, but the question is, why does it still exist? There isn't another. I mean, we're sitting on a land that belongs to a church, a monastery, and that without this like little like fairy tale situation where this land was dedicated to this idea by people who like, because this land just happens to not be it is owned by the Latrun monastery, and it's like a declared buffer zone, and so Israel can't like touch this piece of land. So there is like this whole
but it's Palestinian land,
and I mean, obviously, yeah.
Say
of, like,
obviously one more time, girl.
but this village, like in 1967, it's like a buffer zone, and so there was and the priests who are part of this monastery, they got the approval all the way from the Vatican. They were like, let's start one place where new families will move in intentionally to live together in like a new equal system. But this doesn't happen anywhere else. So it's like this fairy tale situation where on this one, where in this one village it was made possible. And, Palestinians who live here, unlike in everywhere else in Palestine where they are occupied and ethnically cleansed and not allowed to build and like rebuild. So here there is this like one alternative, that happens. And I think just because Israel can't get its hands on this land and control like who moves here and who lives here, that's the only reason why it basically exists, because Israel would have turned it into like an army base or whatever.
Right.
This
is why I asked the question. Exactly.
Yeah.
So then my last question, I already said that, but then I have one more because of your answer. How does your existence there as an Israeli differ from the existence as an Israeli settler?
That's a good question. Wow. I don't know. I don't know how to I don't know how to answer this. If I could go back in time.
Well, you don't got to. We present.
But if I could go back in time and to speak to my grandparents, why my grandfather didn't immigrate to Tehran, to Los Angeles, like all the Iranians instead of here. I mean, but with these circumstances being that I ended up here, I am trying to do the best I can with my, with this fucked up situation. That just by being an Israeli Jew, I'm inherently, more privileged than my Palestinian friends and neighbors. And so trying to change the trajectory of that with my choices and my political action.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. And Tarantulas is going to live with my head rent free. And you all can go see. So Coexistence it's released nationwide now, right? As of today.
As of today, well, it's screening in New York today, and then it'll be in Los Angeles starting November 7th, and we'll be there for Q&As. Yes.
Well, good luck to you all on your continued journey to share this work with the folks and to change minds through art. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No doubt. All right. Let's get into some Black Curate
Blackberry news. Politics. Blackberry news. Pop. Culture. Blackberry news. Sports. Blackberry news. Justice.
Here's the thing. I think that what happens is that people do a thing that okay, let me even if the thing you're doing is better than the thing that other people are doing, it still requires showing up and Reese, if I'm honest, I was surprised at the shock at the questions, because I felt like some of the questions I was asking were very, like, naturally these questions would be asked about this content. So I was genuinely taken aback that that there would be any type of pause about the questions about these things. Like, these are things that are being asked of Palestinians on a daily basis. Does Israel have a right to exist? Like, these are questions that are being asked of anyone who is pro-Palestinian on a daily basis. Does Israel have a right to exist? So, these types of questions to me would be naturally asked at somebody who is standing on the side of Palestinians. So I could tell that they were texting during the convo, which I respected. I get it. And when people lean out the frame, I'm like, oh, they trying to get out. They trying to get out, but they couldn't get out. And I feel like there's a necessity to explain. Telling somebody it's obvious it can have a very kind of contentious tone to it. So I think it's also why I said that. So Lester was like, she was bashful. And I think it's really important to not be bashful. If you're going to step out in this space, like, you're going to have to really step out in this space. And that's why when Ms. Latia said, like, you got to stand on bones, and then she corrected it to business, I actually like bones, because that's what you're doing as a settler in Israel. You are standing on bones. You're living on bones. You're building an entire existence on bones. That's what we're doing right here in the United States every day. And Laura Chung was talking about this last night on our What Would Your Ancestors Say? The fact that we do need to be giving offerings to those whose bones that we are trampling on every freaking day. And not just standing up at the beginning of events and saying, this is our land acknowledgement. No. We have to be existing with the awareness that our existence is literally on ground fertilized by the blood and bones of people who were murdered for it. And that is something that has to wake us up every day to say, let me do the opposite of it. And I did feel by the end of the interview that, she had a consciousness about that, and that I also don't know her individual experience, but I'm always going to give it to folks straight, and to, what's wild is that sometimes I feel like what I'm doing is just giving people the opportunity to say the thing, not realizing that they're like, I didn't want to say the thing. So, sometimes I'm like, oh, like, I didn't realize that was going to be a thing. But it was. And when I asked, like, why is this like community still standing? I thought that was a really, like, regular question. And then when she thought about it, she was like, oh, that's why, because the Israelis can't touch it. But that was, I think she felt I was coming at her, which, whatever. Because what happens is folks do this type of work and then they get praise. The whole thing is about praise. And so that's what it ends up being, right? Like, oh my gosh, like, look at you. You're doing the thing that other people aren't doing. But the bar is so low The bar is so low. So for instance, and this is a far cry, but I'm just going to use a metaphor, a synonym. Like when I got my HBO comedy special, folks were like, oh my gosh, you're the first person to have an HBO comedy special, first Black woman to have an HBO comedy special in 10 years. And I was like, this is not something to commend me for. This is not something to commend me for. I don't want to be positioned as if that is something I should be proud of. That is deeply shameful. Right? So like, yes, you can like commend that like I'm doing my comedy special, but I also have to stand in. Yeah, but I'm not proud that I'm the only person only Black woman in 10 years. And Deborah's like, fear she wasn't committed to her stance, because what happens is a lot of times we let the work speak for us. But if you're going to do a press run, you're going to have to speak for you. And that's the real deal, Holyfield of it. And in this case, this is not just the work speaking for you. This is the work speaking for a people. This is the work speaking against an entire genocide. So I'm hoping that this experience may have given her something more to think about, because it's not a light thing to do a film about this by any means. So she, the courage is there, but we end up having to be more courageous, because we end up, when you come out talking the truth, people are going to demand more of you. It's a fact. And then you're going to have to stand on. Yeah, the obviously answers was killing me. I tried to just attribute it to I was like, okay, the language difference. Now, this is also an interview that was set up by a PR person. So she was probably texting the PR person like, why didn't you send her the movie? Why hasn't she seen the movie? Why? But sometimes I'm like, cultural differences. And then here we are. Damn it. We tried. All of us, we tried. Look at how benevolent we are. Everybody in here was like, I mean, maybe. We really tried, Deborah. Sometimes it ends in a stiff handshake. Oh my God, you guys. Ashley said, so this is a scenario where they didn't know where they were coming. That's what happened. A PR person set this up. They didn't know where they were coming, and they got blindsided. That's what happened. Because I saw when the blindside happened, right? I saw when the blindside happened, because I saw when I basically asked, the first time I asked, like, should Israel exist? And she's like, you're asking these questions like you. Aaron said, I wasn't even watching the screen and I felt the tension and ran over. I mean, listen, this is, it was secondhand uncomfortable for y'all. I was really trying to, so Lester, this is a great question. And this is what I was trying to kind of glean, right? Like, do you feel the film may have a superficial take? And at one point, you know, she was talking about the film as if everybody had seen it, which is why I was like, can you explain certain things? Because even if I had seen it, that's not the same as the audience seeing it, right? And when someone says, obviously, you know, that alludes to an expectation that's just unfair for everybody who's watching. You know, I'm trying to encourage people to watch this movie, and she's like, oh, we don't want to give it away. And I'm like, no, you need to give away. No, you need to give to us. Like, what are we coming to watch? That's how I received it, Allison. Like, obviously, but again, you ain't in a scenario where you can be that free with, obviously. And this is a film where I feel like your stance needs to be very clear. That's what I thought. So, Lizzie said I wasn't uncomfy, and I was like, oh, Amanda's just pressing like she does, and they're stumbling. When I opened for Chris Rock, he was like, you're unflappable. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you know, most comics, like if a joke doesn't land, they're going to keep trying to get the joke to land because they're like committed to that, and then they'll waste the whole set. He was like, but you be like, oh, y'all didn't get that one, moving on. And you just keep going. And I was like, yeah. Because if they don't get it, it's not my fault. If they don't get it, it's not my fault. I've had to learn that. Oh, y'all didn't get it? Keep it moving. Keep it cracking. So thank you, Tiffany. Like, that's how it felt for me, Tiffany DeJesus. That's how it felt for me. That's how it felt for me. Like, don't make me be so loud right now. And then I had to be like, this is why you need to be loud right now. I want to do a course. So there's a course that I'm working on in my mind, and I've mentioned it to you before, and it's a course on confrontation. However, I want it to be a course that uses our historical and personal pasts to give us a framework to how to confront the present and future. And it would be a course where we will address historical confrontations, right, that have been either militarized or resistance confrontations, etc. And then we will also address our own scenarios where we have either had to confront or avoided confrontation, right? And then we will also do practice of confrontation, like role play of confrontation, with the goal of really enabling ourselves to have frameworks and tools for how to address things head on, not only in our personal lives, but in our political lives. Carmen, thank you. Because I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sound like I was battling her with obviously. How can a documentary about something we've witnessed and been educated about in real life have spoilers? I was like, it's not a Marvel film. That's when she started to shut down. When I was like, I mean, it's not spoilers. Okay, Taylor, let me stop. Because this is the piece. We deserve this. Everybody came on here today like, and then I think I didn't get her humor. So that's a sucky one when that happens. Like when someone can't get your humor, it's so frustrating. I appreciate you thinking I've studied psychology at all. I have not studied psychology at all, but I've just been in the mix of humans since I was 8, like for a long time. I've just had to be around lots and lots and lots and lots of humans. And as a comic and an empath, like I've had to be very astute. Oh, so neuropsychology, we had my homeboy Martin Sims came on here to talk about moving to Mexico and ended up talking about neuropsychology, and it blew all of our minds. So much so that I literally used his episode as a whole episode of Small Doses Podcast. Side effects of how neuropsychology can save relationships. 1000% Mario DeAndre Brooks with a capital A and an accent. Okay, mama. You have to have at least an understanding of psychology to do comedy. It's the observation of human condition. Like, did you really, Ashley? Yes, the amygdala, all of that. I do not have a meter greeter personality. I actually do not have a meter greeter personality, which is why it used to be annoying as hell when I worked at the Gap and they would try and put me into meter greeter. And I was like, finally, I was like, stop it. Stop making me have to say hello to people. I don't want to say hello to people. I will cross an entire, I don't know if any of y'all remember this, when I scraped my knee trying to avoid saying hello to the pool guy when I lived in LA. This man comes and cleans he was coming to clean the pool at my house. And I was making such an effort to get away from him just so I didn't have to say hello. Do you understand? All I had to say was hello. We weren't going to have a conversation. It's not like he was going to rope me into anything. And just because of that, I legit, I was lying on like the couch outside, and then I climbed over the back of it to run inside, and I tripped on my flip-flop and scraped up my knee like a little kid busting her butt on a skip it, just to not say hello. And y'all want to put me as the meter greeter at the Gap? Let me fold clothes, hide and seek, Denise, please. Let me just fold the clothes. Actually, can you put me in the stock room? Because that's actually where it's popping. They in the back listening to bachata and having a great time. I can't stand a meter greeter. I do not want to be a meter greeter. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Like, how was your day? Please. How was my day? Tell you about my day. Let me tell you about my week. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't like it. That's why I don't like to have, like, I don't like to do like sometimes when I would do college events, when I would speak at colleges, they would be like, can you do a dinner with the students of the organization before? And one time this lady got really mad at me because we went to dinner, and while we were at the dinner, nobody spoke to me. And if you don't speak to me, I'm not going to speak to you. I am not a social person. I have a very difficult time in a room of strangers unless I'm on a stage. If I am at a dinner and I don't know nobody, I will be on my phone. I will ask for crayons. I will stare and count the amount of squares in the ceiling. I will be able to tell you by the end of the night how many light fixtures there are. Do not put me in a dinner where I don't know nobody. I'm going to be awkward. They're going to think I'm being rude. If I am coming off of a tour, off of a show, it might be different because I'm on a high. So I have a little bit more like openness, no. That's why we, meet and greet after the show is fine. But like, if I'm just like in Amanda mode, no. And so they brought me to this dinner. Nobody would talk to me. Nobody talked to me at this dinner. And so then after, this turned into Amanda Seales is rude. She came, you wouldn't talk to the students. And I was like, it wasn't that I wouldn't talk to the students. The students were not addressing me. Well, you needed to be talking to them. No, ma'am. First of all, you fucking hired me to do a speech. That's what you hired me to do. You hired me to do a speech. Not to host a dinner. Like, don't invite me to your party as the party starter. You're going to be very disappointed. Oh, but Amanda, you're so funny. Don't invite me. So, like, my really good friend had a bonfire for her birthday. Now, I wanted to show up as a friend. Y'all, I went to that bonfire. She said that this is the moment that she really realized, oh, this is very difficult for her. Everybody was sitting around, like they had all brought their own chairs to the bonfire, okay? I need y'all to know, I was like this. I did that for an hour. I did that for an hour. I did that for an hour on a beach. Okay. I just stood my ground. One person came up and they had a dog. I talked to the dog. I talked to the dog. I don't know none of those people. It was at night jazz, so I couldn't go in the beach. There was a lot of music playing. Like it was overstimulation because I didn't even realize that people do this, but it was like night beach. There was a DJ set up like on the sand. Like it was a lot going on. Wendigard, I was completely exposed. There was no corners. There was nowhere I could hide. There was no tree. I literally just stood there. Here's the thing, Jennifer. I can talk to anyone if I'm in a particular space of comfort and regulation. But I don't really, I'm not like a hey kind of gal. So like, I remember when I would have to go to like industry parties, my homegirl Candace Thompson, we would literally go and we would find somewhere that was like in the path of people walking. And then we would just post up. Because I'm not going to walk around and I'm not going to do laps. None of that. We're just going to post up. I don't want to have small talk. So that means that the people who want to talk to us will come over to us versus having to stumble into people and try to like act like I care about whatever nonsense they're talking about. I don't. And I also just don't even know how to talk about this. And now I want to go home. So we would sit over there and we would just enjoy ourselves. That's what we would do. So, but after that bonfire, my homegirl was like, okay, so I'm not going to invite you to stuff no more. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Like, thank you. Ron Simmons says small doses of being married to an extrovert. Struggles. Let me tell you about when you're with somebody who's even more introverted than you. And so now you got to become an extrovert. Bro. That's a doozy too. That's a real doozy. Let's talk about some Black Hero news. So Karine Jean-Pierre, man, it's like, how are you, how do you stand on hold on one second. I don't really have even like something really witty to say. Like, just Karine she ain't it. Listen to this. This is the former White House press secretary during Biden's administration. You know, the genocide.
You regrets at all for anything that you said while you were speaking on behalf of this administration?
Look.
It's a simple yes or no. You don't even know.
No, because you're asking for a yes or no question. I want to put some context to it too. I woke up every day. I woke up every day very proud to be the White House press secretary. I woke up every day as a Black woman who is queer, no one had ever seen someone like me at that podium standing behind.
The way that identity politics is used as a shield for being a terrible person is unbelievably obvious to me. And the fact that people continue to allow it is beyond my scope of comprehension.
And that lectern, it was an honor and a privilege to have that job. And I did it to the best of my abilities. And I spoke for the President of the United States, a person that I believe was a decent person. We did not get everything right. No one is saying we got everything right. No one is saying that we got everything right. No one is saying that. But we did it to our best of our
Amen. Somebody is in Amon's ear, like, move on. She move on. Because that little sit back right there that he just did.
But we did it to our best of our abilities, and I worked very hard to do that job.
This is when you need somebody like me to say, so you don't regret going along with a genocide.
And so I want to,
because the way that people act like they can't quit a job is beyond me. The way that people can't say, okay, well, at the time I had to speak for them because that was like what the job was and I had decided to stay at the job. But now that I'm not at the job, no, that shit was fucked up. The fact that people do not do that is the problem.
Put it into context. And as you know, at the podium, you don't do yes or no question answers.
The way that they be deploying laughter as a distraction also disrespects me as a comic because you ain't saying nothing funny.
No, we were hoping you would now that you are speaking for yourself.
Amen. Amen said, oh, we were actually hoping you would say something since you're speaking for yourself now.
Not at
but
the podium.
I was very proud. I was very proud of everything that I did. So,
and there's that. I was very proud of everything that I did. I don't even want to hear the rest of it. I was very proud of everything that I did. And what we do is we want to always like add these caveats, but when people show you who they are, believe them. She was very proud of everything she did. Period. Don't nobody have time no more for trying to figure it out for folks. That's what I'm not gonna do. And I started doing that with Shorty, and we actually got some truth here that we really didn't need to do that. I'm not doing it anymore. She wanted to go in there and come up, and she did. That's it. That is incredibly telling. And when we talk about this Democratic Party, again, we have to realize who we're dealing with. And I did a video about this yesterday on Instagram that I feel like people may not understand. So I want to say something about it here. The Democrats are the standard. I think somehow people think that the Republicans are the standard of the U.S., but no, the Democrats are. The Democrats were formed in a space of racism. Like they only became somewhat more progressive just for the purpose of trying to continue to get elections. But they never acted in a much more progressive way. They just weren't as racist as the other folks. So this whole like representing of the Democrats or reforming of the Democrats' history as if they are some like oppositional party is not true. They were the Dixiecrats. They were the South. And then when homeboy was like, all right, here nigga damn, here's some civil rights stuff. They were like, oh, well, we can't roll with you. And he only did that because he basically was like, if we don't do this, these blacks is going to burn this country down. So we're going to have to do something. We got to do something. And then they actively put in measures to pacify. Again, though, for us to continue to acknowledge that the Republicans are terrible without acknowledging that the ground foundational means of the Democrats is also terrible, it distracts, detours, and diverts the necessary effort to actually build something from the ground up that is actually for the people. You're continuing to try to restore or do some type of renovations on a home with bad foundation. And any of us here have watched enough HGTV to know that if the foundation is bad, you're going to have to burn the house down. You're going to have to bring the house down like that. You can't keep renovating. They're not even going to renovate the house if the foundation is bad. The closest thing to an oppositional party was the Republicans when they came in, because they were, and to your point, Sarah, there has never been an opposition party in a two-party system. They were an additional party to the Whigs and the Democrats. So Karen Jean-Pierre is trash, and she is a disgrace to her Haitian heritage, a heritage of freedom fighters, of liberators, of resistance, and she is a sellout, and she's using and pinkwashing her selloutness with being queer. Like how you use queerery to try to divert from your selloutery. I don't like it. I don't like it. So let's talk about Jamaica. Jamaica has a big storm that just rolled through. Hurricane Melissa. Okay? Hurricane Melissa was not playing games. So we're going to play for you some of what's going on in Jamaica and how Hurricane Melissa has wreaked its havoc on the island.
Is now down to 896.
Oh, my Jesus Christ. Okay. By the way, this is the fourth major hurricane so far this year. I think only one season, 2005, is the season that we had an equal number of Category 4 and 5 hurricanes. So again, a lot of history being made in a backloaded hurricane season, which is definitely and sadly about to be very, very tragic for some of the Caribbean islands.
This is about St. Thomas, right behind the Bad Primary and Jonah High School. See it there? The river broke. So everybody on the lane, it's not safe. And you know what the hottest thing? A peer senior citizen live on my lane. Peer senior citizen. So what?
Okay, I know you can't understand anything he's saying, but in general, he's basically saying the river broke. Okay? The river flooded. That's essentially what he's saying.
That when the river really reached them. See there? See there? I'm dead with it. See there? See there? Heavier wave of river coming. Watch it.
Alright, this is the first time that I'm actually coming down to the sea. It's crazy down here. I don't want to go out there.
Jamaicans don't even be trying to be funny. Like, there's nothing funny about this. And then he gonna go and do that.
Look, there are people, see the cars going, people, the guide post. Look,
my house looking outside, and there are no rivers, anything like that near to me.
I know most of you know that Jamaica just experienced the most catastrophic hurricane in our history. A Cat 5 monster named Melissa, whose apocalyptic devastation in places like Black River, St. Elizabeth, words can't even describe it. And yes, we have experienced hurricanes before, we've experienced storms, faced them head on, and as Jamaicans, we do come out on the other side because of our resilience and our courage. It's just who we are, and we help to rebuild compassionately together. So yes, we will hold on, we will breathe. We've lost our roofs, we've lost some spirit, we've lost some things. But what we haven't lost is how we face adversity together. Because we're never bludgeoned by adversity, we actually rise to meet it. And as a result, we know that the same sky that brought this storm will bring the sunlight. And that together, whether through screens, whether through parishes, whether through the world, as Jamaicans, we are going to champion our spirit, our neighborly love, and we're going to get through this together. We also know that many of you want to help from across the world. Many of you have been DMing me, asking if we're okay, praying for us. And I just want to say the government has set up a website for donations and also for getting more information. I urge you to use that website. Don't let anybody call you. Don't let anybody say, well, you can give it to us. I've put it in the caption. And I want to just thank you for your prayers, for your love. You know, Jamaica is a beacon in the world, and we continue to be that beacon. We punch way above our weight class, and I know you're thinking of us. And, you know, it's moments like these where we recognize how loved we are, and we just want to tell you we love you too. And to each and every Jamaican, both in Jamaica and around the world, don't worry yourself. We're going to get through this. Thank you.
Lisa said, I'm about to give y'all all this fineness so you can donate. Big up Lisa. We just talking the DMs. Lisa was also Miss World, by the way. Okay. Stop. Y'all are so funny today. What is going on? This is sincere, but it does feel like she's sending out an audition tape, and that is deeply accurate. But she also said, Listen, I'm exactly Wendigard. I'm gonna use what I got. Y'all gonna give us this bread. Y'all gonna help us. And someone in here said her hair looked like she just came in from the storm. Like, oh my God. Y'all, it was crazy out there. We need your help. Just gorgeous and with it. And Lisa been down. Okay. Lisa she was like elected 4 times. Lisa said, just came in from the storm, y'all. Renee said, I had to stop work and give her all my attention. So shout out to Lisa and big up to all the Jamaicans. But also we have to acknowledge that, you know, as was shown in that original image, this is going to come up the islands, including Cuba. They're going to feel some of it in the Dominican Republic. And then you got Bahamas up there and Cayman Islands. Like, these islands are also going to feel it. So I think it's really telling, though, that a lot of people don't understand that this is a result of climate change. This is a result of the emissions, the constant fossil fueling, the warming of the seas. This is crazy late in hurricane season for this big of a hurricane to be popping off. This is not normal. And so much of our conversations are always circulating around Palestine, around racism, around imperialism, and all of that is valid. However, we are not talking enough about how all of these things are also contributing to the climate crisis. All of those bombs that are dropped in Palestine, they are releasing incredible amounts of toxins into the air, into the water, into the soil. All of the stuff that we see with the private jets and the Monsanto of it, all of this is connected. They're now talking about they're gonna defederalize or deprotect land in the Arctic so that they can start fracking up there. What? So, you know, when we're in this fight against ICE, this fight against racism, this fight against MAGA, we are very deeply also engaged in a fight against the actual planet. And for what it's worth, so many of the people that ICE is abducting are from indigenous lineages from these Central American and South American countries that the United States has done a very effective effort of destabilizing, largely in part by going after their indigenous populations. So Hurricane Sandy is not the level of Hurricane Melissa. That's the point that I'm saying. A hurricane of this magnitude. I was in Hurricane Sandy. I was in a hurricane in Grenada last year, Hurricane Beryl. I hope if they do go drill up in the Arctic, I hope they release a demon like the Balrog. You know, when they went up in that mine, in the mines of Moria in Lord of the Rings, and your man's told them, Gandalf was like, listen, ain't nothing been in here in a while. So don't get loose because we don't want to stir up things from the deep. So just be real quiet, calm. And then, of course, fool of a took. Want to be silly. And then now the thing done dropped, and now we done woken up this dang demon from the underworld. And now he got to come and, you shall not pass. Like, what are we doing? Speaking of what are we doing, why are we now seeing in real time an attempt at a CIA Coup change in Venezuela. These are the things that we've read about, right? These are the times we all wish for. Sorry, I just have to have a Drew Hill moment. The moment will last me so much more. You don't have to do a thing at all. We can take a time. Okay. So these folks decided, oh no, we really gonna push for this regime change in Venezuela. Like, they're not playing around. And I don't know if y'all feel this way, but I feel like I just really didn't know enough in the past to see these things happening, but they've been happening all the time. Like, the way that these folks really do their business of manufacturing consent for this is unbelievable and consistent, and it's still happening, even though we can all see it plain as day. Even though we can all see it plain as day. So right now they're voting, as Inema Ratza said. I definitely just ruined her name. They're voting in hold on, let me get her name right. NM. Okay, so NM mentioned that they are voting in the UN right now about the embargo in Cuba. And we know that they gonna sit up there and try and act like this embargo is legit. They're gonna sit up there and act like this is some necessary thing that needs to happen. That's what the United States is gonna do. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna save that. Because I want to get to that. You know what? Wait, I want to make this a critical thinking exercise. Amandaland. Let's get it. Okay, let's talk about the U.S. effort to overtake and cause regime change in Venezuela. Let's talk about the different interests that the United States has there. And let's also use this to talk about socialism, knowing that for the 33rd time, the overwhelming majority of the world has voted at the UN to urge the U.S. to lift the blockade on Cuba. 165 votes. 12 countries abstained. 7 said no. Can someone please find out who the 7 were? Your brain, that is. Okay. Well, Centel, before we get into this, is asking me for a full-length album. I have several albums. Yeah, you can go to my Bandcamp, amandaseals.bandcamp.com. I have several albums. Technicolor Lover, Madam Monochrome, Spandex Rhymes and Soul, Life Experience, all of them. Okay. So when we talk about Venezuela, what do we feel are reasons why the United States is focusing on Venezuela? Let's first start with the actual manufacturing consent that's happening around this.
Trump told me yesterday that he plans to brief members of Congress about future potential military operations against Venezuela and Colombia. So there will be a congressional briefing about a potential expanding from the sea to the land.
Just to clarify, the examples you're citing also involved ground troops. You said time for Maduro to go.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like regime change. Are you talking about troops on the ground?
I'll let the president speak to that. I'm talking about a briefing that would expand military operations potentially from the sea to the land.
Okay. So they're literally saying that they are invading a country. Do you understand this? Are y'all understanding? They're literally just casually like, yeah, we're invading this country. Now, the woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize is against the current socialist president, Maduro. And she is absolutely all in with President Trump. She has been heard on tape saying that there needs to be blockades until she is able to be put in position. Her name is Maria Corina Machado. She was given the Nobel Peace Prize as it's basically soft power to continue the manufacturing of consent that the U.S. is doing the right thing for Venezuela. Now, people have issues with Maduro, I'm sure. However, we need to understand that, yes, oil is a very, very important aspect that they are going into Venezuela for. However, we also have to understand that this is a socialist country and that, yes, as Susan is saying right here, she wants to privatize the economy. Now, you have Argentina that just had their president, Milieu, bailed out. It's not Milieu, it's like Maleo or something like that. But they just had him bail out his rich people because they got him to be made president again. This is the Western Hemisphere, and the United States is trying to make sure that it has its ducks in a row and it has the power of the North and the South to be able to, I believe, then expand to attack China. Right? They are trying to make a very small amount of people wealthy. And they're getting these other countries on board to do so. The reason I believe there will be a world war very soon is because I do believe that they are getting too big for their britches and that eventually somebody gonna flip. Because there's no honor amongst thieves. And they push and they push and they push and they do not acknowledge, they don't seem to have any awareness of the fact that there's a limit. There's a limit. So when we see all of this happening, we're like, well, hold on now, but what about Cuba? Why do they keep making it so hard for Cuba?
Staying for this vote or vote no, in the United States, we enthusiastically welcome your support, and we enthusiastically and strongly encourage you to stop propagating this propaganda. There is no blockade.
So this man, the ambassador to the United Nations, just for the United States, just sat up there and said with his chest that there is no blockade for Cuba. That is 100% absolutely false. And it is the blockade in Cuba that is really making it hard on Cubans to even live. Okay? They're making it incredibly difficult for Cubans to exist and to subsist. And this has always been the case because Cuba is a socialist economy. So I watched a video this morning where this woman was like, we can't have free transportation because then who will buy the cars? And then if we don't buy the cars, then then what are the insurance companies going to do? And then if the insurance companies can't insure the cars, then so like it just keeps going in these systems that have been created for capital. The goal continuously is capital. But capital has limits. All of these things are tied together, correct, Cynthia? So I want to hear from you guys. What is it that you feel like is the direction that the U.S. is going? I just said what I think, but what do you think is the direction the U.S. is going with their latest attempt? Actually, here's a better question. What do you think are essential efforts that folks here need to make to not only understand, but to challenge the efforts that the U.S. is now making again to dispel and to silence the rise of socialism in the world. Because this has happened before. All right, Rachel came back with the answer for the question I asked earlier. The U.S. convinced Argentina, Hungary, North Macedonia, Paraguay, and Ukraine to join it and Israel in voting against the resolution. So basically, the U.S. said to them, if you don't do this, we're going to take this back or we're going to do this thing to you. That's essentially what happened. Oh, my God. So what can we do on the ground? Now, we've had an entire episode where we got to hear from different perspectives from different people. Some were very prepared, others weren't. But we also got to hear from Jamaica, talking about what they're going to do. So I want to hear from you all. Cheyenne, great suggestion. Look at indigenous movements in South America. Right now, there are indigenous movements that I know of happening in Peru and Ecuador, where the indigenous people are very ardently fighting to prevent encroachment on their land, to prevent the use of their land for military exercises, etc. Amazonian indigenous peoples have been about that life. And there was an indigenous nation in Brazil that recently had a win in terms of their land. Also, of course, the Central American and Caribbean islands as well. Rachel says, can we look into the history of land grab? Now, two of the things here that are both of y'all said something that is very important, which is history. There is a very real usage of history. It is not simply just knowing things. We go into history to give us inspiration, to give us ideas, to give us frameworks and tools and templates on how to apply the efforts that we are making here. Look at the youth in Nepal. Great point of reference. Now, when we're talking about how this concept of socialism gets challenged, some people may not realize this, but yes, buying things contributes to capitalism. The thing about it for me is that I wonder where we change buying things to bartering. And it's like that transition is the one that's like so difficult for folks, because I know that I would do a lot of bartering if that person could also barter to feed their kids or to feed themselves, or if I could also barter to feed myself. And so sometimes I feel like where we get stuck is like, how do we implement this in the current state of things? But we have to continue to think about it. We have to continue to consider. Fight suggests read All the Shah's Men by Stephen Kinzer. It's about the CIA's coup in Iran. Listen, that coup in Iran is nuts. The part about all of this is I want to take you back to Jeffrey Sachs' interview that he did on the show, where he was like, I just didn't realize that the U.S. was really that lethal. Like when someone would say to me, yeah, I'm worried the U.S. is going to take me out, I would be like, nah. And he was like, that happened in Haiti. The president, the PM or the president of Haiti was like, I'm worried the U.S. is going to take me out. And I was like, nah, we'll work it out. And then they took them out. Like they took them out. So that is really the way things go. I'm looking at what we're seeing right now with the Sahel states in Africa, with Maduro and Colombia saying like, yo, you ain't going to just roll up in here like it ain't going to rock. Like we are absolutely going to hold each other down. And I'm saying to myself, are they going to really try and murk all of these folks at the same time? How? And if they did, what is the response to that? Does that actually then make the rest of the country, the rest of the globe so scared that they just move into submission? Because we're seeing that right now. The effort of actual fear mongering by, or the actual effort of hard power to incite fear to silence. Yeah, I have that one in the queue as well. Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States. That's another one. Another book reference, another book suggestion by Chidimaka 1025. Or is it Chidimacha or Kittimaka or Kittimacha or Chidimaka? The Jakarta Method, Washington's Anti-Communist Crusade and the Mass Murder Program That Shaped Our World by Vincent Bevins. That's the playbook they're following for Venezuela right now. So there you go, the Jakarta Method. I actually own that. It's never new ideas. It's just new ways that it's being implemented. It's this new folks that's being implemented on. So it's never just the resources. I don't believe that to be the case. It's never just the resources, because the protectors of the resources are the people. So once you have the protectors of the resources in your hand, then you can just go to the resources. So they always end up having to do a simultaneous sleight of hand. We got to do this thing to these people to then go over here and get their stuff. I just watched Andor. I was watching Andor last night. They were talking about this on one of the planets. And they were like, yeah, like these are the protectors of the planet. And they usually would come up here every year, like in the thousands and thousands, to experience this phenomena. So what we did was we actually put bars along the way, so that folks on the way here would drop in those bars, and then they end up drinking, and then they end up falling out and not wanting to do the walk. And so that limited the ability for the people to actually continue to move as a unit, and that allows us to be able to slide in. I mean, it's diabolical. It truly is. It's not invincible. And that's what we always have to remember. It's not invincible. One of the things that's going to keep us, though, from figuring out other methods is thinking within the limitations of what they've given us. I'm going to say that one more time in my PSA.
PSA. I came on the show today feeling very just uninspired on the fight, feeling frustrated, feeling overwhelmed by just all of the negative, terrible, horrible things happening. And thankfully, we got to have conversations and watch video of folks who still have that light in them and remember where that light is in us. And when we dig even deeper, we know that the connection to that light was one that those who came before us considered to be very, very sacred. They were doing dances, they were doing rituals, they were doing rites of passage, they were doing rites, they were doing work that is on a deep, soulful level on a regular basis, not considering it work, but considering it living. It was a part of life to be connected to yourself, to the land, to your people in that way. And as we have now been pushed and pushed and pushed into this society where work is about actually disconnecting you from that, we end up really getting lied to about what is actually out there for us to fight with as tools and methods of resistance. And so the only way that you can actually open your mind and your heart to alternative methods of resistance is to really challenge the limitations that you have been brought up in, that you have been adherent to. I remember when I was sexually assaulted and I had to pursue methods of healing
that were outside of just going to therapy. Because when I spoke to my therapist, I was just kind of like, okay, like this didn't really like speak to me. And it was the first time that I allowed myself to open up the possibilities of Reiki as a method for healing, to open up the possibilities of crystals as a method for strengthening. When I went through my nervous breakdown in 2020, it was the first time that I opened up myself to the possibilities of affirmations. And some people might be like, Amanda, what the affirmations got to do with soul work? Because it's you talking to your soul. It's like your conscious brain talking to the actual spirit that lives in you and cheering you on, like from the outside. And the limitations that we have are placed on us by those who either don't have access to greater expansive considerations themselves, or those who don't want us to have access to those for whatever reason. So we ourselves have to be very, very responsible about the ways in which we are perpetuating the limitations of our perimeters for purpose. We have to expand those perimeters to let in other frameworks, other tools, other efforts, so that we can be able to understand indigenous teachings that have been suppressed. There's so obviously the reality that anything that has been suppressed by major capitalist powers is something, or even just major powers, is something that you need to make it your business to learn. That's why when people be like, witches, I'm like, these people made witches into villains. The same people that enslaved you, the same people that used your bodies for experiments, the same people that have waged war all over your motherland content, them. They said witches was terrible and burnt them at the stake. So that should be your cue to say, well, then I need to go find out about witches. Because if them people were saying they bad, then I need to go find that out. Instead, we see folks over here still talking about witches is witchcraft, and I'll just never ever get over that CeCe Winans did not do the song "I'm Every Woman" with Whitney Houston, because she says the lyric, "I can cast a spell." And the last thing I want to leave you with is the reality that we don't need everybody. We don't need everybody. Okay. So when you feel like, well, we can't make moves, or we can't change, or we can't resist because everybody ain't on board. No. We don't need everybody. I'm not saying that in the context of like forsaking them or forfeiting them. I'm just saying you don't need everybody to agree in order to understand what you need to do as a people who get it. And I think that is what keeps a lot of people paralyzed. I see people saying all the time, but how are we? Listen, I point out those people over there just in case you forget they exist, but it don't never stop the work we're doing over here. It don't stop me from going to meet with other organizations. It don't stop me from learning and listening over and over again to the preaching of the choir. I'm in the choir. I'm preaching to the choir. And ever so often we have new members show up. So someone said to me, well, Amanda, what's the point of saying what you're saying? Someone said this on Instagram. What's the point of saying what you're saying if the people who need to hear it aren't going to hear it? And the people who you're saying to already know. And I said, do you think there's only 2 reasons to speak truth? Because I can come up with several. And I do every single day.
PSA.
All right, y'all. It's been a real one. you everybody for joining us today. I think it's so great that we continued and pushed through and we got into a much better vibrational space. And it's so lovely to be able to do that with you all. Truly, truly, truly. If you have not gotten your tickets to What Would the Ancestors Say live from LA, please go to amandaseals.com and support. Get yourself a copy as a part of the bundle of my new book, What Would the Ancestors Say? It's going down November 8th, and I will also be on a book tour. Yay! So we will have dates for these cities coming at you very soon so that you can come, buy a book, get it signed, all of that good stuff, all right? And pretty much every night, I'm on Instagram Live at 8 p.m. Eastern, talking to folks about what would your ancestors say. So if you want to have some different kind of content, make sure that you come and join us. All right. I want to shout out everybody who has provided us with a, what's it called? A super today. So appreciative. And thank you to our guests. That girl really didn't know what she was talking about. Isn't that wild? What's that about? I'm going to have to sit with that for a while. Now, remember, all of our folks here that are Patreon subscribers, they head on over to Patreon. And we have an after show kickback. And we're going to be talking today. So I will see all of my SEAL squatters over there. Remember, you can subscribe to Patreon for just $5 a month. It's a compassionate, creative community that I understand is really feeding folks, not just information, but also just sanity, which we have to continue to maintain. All right. So thank you all again for another episode of for another episode of Views from Amandaland. And before I go, I got to talk about small doses. So today airs the last episode of Small Doses Podcast. I have been doing Small Doses Podcast since February of 2017. And it's been a really incredible learning journey to share that with you all. I'm looking forward, though, to continuing on a journey of sharing with you, of knowledge, of insights, of new understandings, and also of growing. Because if you listen to the beginning of Small Doses Podcast to now, you're 100% going to be like, oh, wow, I just grew up with Amanda. I just grew up literally with Amanda into Miss Seals. And now I'm stepping into a new phase of my life as an educator, very deeply connected to edutainment as the only path forward. So again, I want to thank everybody who listens to Small Doses. I hope that you will continue to stay subscribed because that feed will now become episodes of Views from Amandaland and other content that I will be sharing with you all. So thank you again for being on this ride with me. Small doses, self-help from the hip. Small doses, we're talking that small doses and keeping it real. Small doses with me, Amanda Seals. And for those of y'all who are just getting into the small doses of it all, the catalog will remain available. So you can go all the way back into time and experience the dopeness that is Small Doses in a large dose. And don't forget, there's also the book. And you will be able to get Small Doses, What Would the Ancestors Say? And my first book, Young Skin, Wise Mind, Old Soul. You'll be able to get all of those on my website coming very soon. So looking forward to sharing all of that with you all. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. 30 seconds of stillness.
Amanda.